the budget estimates for the 2025-2026 financial year, his first one since he was appointed as the Cabinet Secretary. This year's estimates are at 4.2 trillion shillings, the highest ever presented in the country. Of the estimates, 1.79 trillion shillings is allocated for recurrent expenditure. 707.8 billion shillings is earmarked for development, and the remaining 1.34 trillion shillings will be used to serve the national debt, or to service the national debt. Once again, the education sector has been allocated the highest of allocations at 701 billion Kenya shillings, which is at 28% of the entire budget, followed by the energy, infrastructure and ICT sector, which has taken an allocation of 500 billion Kenya shillings. Health, 136.8 billion shillings has been allocated to it. Agriculture has taken 78 billion shillings, and national security, 251 billion shillings. County governments have also been allocated 405 billion shillings. This comes as Mbadi reiterated that the government won't increase any taxes in this financial year's budget, but will use existing laws to collect taxes. Speaking at a session with businessmen here in Nairobi, Mbadi reiterated the government's commitment to strengthening businesses in the country.
Hali tumefika, hatuwezi kutosha uzuru zaidi kwa Wakenya, especially kwa ile tunaita personal tax. Ile ushuru inalipwa moja kwa moja kutoka kwa wananchi wa kawaida. Na hiyo ndiye msimamo wangu, na imekuwa msimamo wangu kwa muda mrefu sana. Ukiendelea kutosha ushuru, sasa badala ya kupata pesa zaidi itaanza kupunguka, kwa sababu wananchi wanafanya biashara ili wao pia wafaidike. Huwezi kutosha ushuru kupita kiasi.
The minister has deplored what he says are methods used by Kenyans to evade paying taxes. But what do Kenyans think about the budget that will be read later today? Here are some of the statements that we got from you.
Majina yangu ni Benjamin Leti, mkaaji akaunti ya Wasigishu. Tungependa budget ikisomwa leo iwe friendly na wananchi na raia wa Njugu mwenyewe. Inasaidia raia. Commodities usiongezwe. Tunaambia serikali bei ikae hapo. Wasiongeze bei, kwa sababu saa hii bei ambayo iko kwa unga, sukari na ile vitu ambayo ni necessary kwa wananchi wasiguza hapo. Lakini vitu zingine hatuna haja.
Kwa majina ninaitwa Tewa Bengula, mkaaji wa Bungoma County. Mimi mwenyewe, lakini budget yenye inakuja hatujui inaenda kutufanyaje, kwa sababu inaenda kutuvinya zaidi. Hata tuoni maana yake, kitu cha kwanza. Kwa sababu mnasoma hii, kesho imepandishwa imefika.
Watakaposoma hiyo bajeti, wacha let them favor the citizens that are suffering a lot in terms of these basic commodities.
Kwa majina mimi ni Samuel Ayo, mkaaji wa Homa Bay Town. Bajeti inasomwa leo, so tunatarajia kama sisi ni watu tunafanya kazi ya taxi, tunatarajia hii bajeti tusaidie bei ya fueli rudi chini. Hata sisi tuone kama vile tunaweza kujimudu kimaisha.
It should be noted that this is the very first budget of Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi. However, all eyes are on Parliament today to know the issues that have been prioritized, and especially due to his statement that the government does not intend to increase taxes on the Kenyan taxpayer. Now, if you intend to use this road, beware, as the Kenyan National Highways Authority has announced a temporary traffic disruption at Naivas JKIA along Mombasa Road. That is the exit of A8 Mombasa bound service lane. The disruption will be from Saturday, June 14th at 9 p.m. all the way to Sunday, June 15th at 10 a.m. The authority said the closure will allow for the installation of the fabricated footbridge beams of the Syokimau Railway footbridge. Kenya advised motorists to follow the proposed traffic management plan and cooperate with the police and traffic marshals on site. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Waliletea fujo Moi mpaka wakapata cooperation. Wakakuja wakasumbua Kibaki mpaka wakachukua nusu mkate. Wamekuja wakazungusha Uhuru hapo mpaka wakaenda na handshake, program yetu ikapotea, BBI ikaendelea, tukazama, tukaingia kwa madeni. Sasa mimi nimewaambia, hii serikali hii, mimi nawaambia hii serikali ni ya mahasla. Hakuna nusu mkate, hakuna handshake, hakuna hiyo borojo.
Jana nimeona wale wazee tulishinda. Ati hiyo mzee akisema ati he will not be coerced or intimidated to joining our government. Wewe mzee sikia. We have no business within our government. Hatuna haja na hatugojei wewe. We are not looking for you and we have no time. Stop saying that people can force you to come to this government. Forget about being forced or coerced. We are not interested because sisi tuko na kazi ya kufanya.
Kama kuna mtu ako na namba ya William Ruto, alikodi hii video mtumie. Maisha yangu tangu nizaliwe sijawahi kuona mtu muongo, mfisadi, baradhuli, dhabdhabina kama William Samoei Ruto.
Mimi Hassan Joho nikitaka kuongea, mimi I don't even dream of engaging with them. Ati huyu akitaka aje ongee sio na mimi niongee na Ruto nini? Mimi nikamtafute atanipa nini? Wilbaro.
I wonder.
Nilipeleka Wilbaro mimi la kimtaani la kucheza nalo zamani.
We have a choice to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in.
A few moments later.
Now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning. The Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs.
Nguruwe ujiganga na mabuta yako.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's after 6 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, and we're getting into Thursday. Where? If you guys see where I am, me who thought I was what? I'm in the midst of two gentlemen who have come looking sharp and dapper today. Why didn't you guys tell me? I would have even tried something. I would have tried to brush up a little bit. Eh?
This is just kawaida. This is...
It's Dio.
No.
See? Dio is doing burgundy.
No, not double breast. 3-piece.
Hey. Dio is doing burgundy. Is that burgundy or maroon?
Yeah, I'm still in...
I'm not sure.
Okay.
No, this is it's actually like leaning on burgundy. But I still insist that you guys should have told me now. A girl can also clean up nice.
Today is a serious day. It is a serious day.
Today is going to lead to briefcases and whatnot, you know?
Yeah. We're posing for photos today. We're talking about budget. So it's a serious day. So you want to look the part.
Okay, sorry, don't be angry. I've tried at least small.
Small. No ahala.
Mko salama lakini?
Salama shukuru kwaje?
Mimi niko poa.
Good to see you.
Where?
It's Thursday.
It is.
Wow. It's the day after Wednesday.
It is normally, and the day before Friday.
And the day before Friday. So it's been a long week already.
I tell you, it has. It's the second Thursday of June, the day that the budget is read. Usually,
Yes.
that's the date that it's given. And of course, there are many conversations going towards that in terms of, how then are you going to have a spending blueprint for the country for the next fiscal year, starting from the 1st of July and then ending on the 30th of June. And all eyes are on Treasury today. And if anything to go by, just listening to the numbers already, with the help of Made yesterday, and then just looking into some things in terms of what that's going to be. It'll be interesting to see how we get into the day and what it will then mean. And around those, we will be having a number of conversations. That notwithstanding, yesterday the Senate was live and awash with a number of people. The Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, was in Senate. The Vice Chair of IPOA was in Senate. The Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and National Administration, Onesimus Chumba Murkomen, was in Senate, as well as the DCI boss, Mohammed Amin, was in Senate to answer questions and to give their statements round about the case of murder of Albert Ojwang. And senators had many questions to answer, many questions to ask, and they were looking for answers. A lot of the answers were given that, we'll get into being able to give you reports. I believe the Vice Chair of IPOA said, give us, not less than 10 days for us to come back to you and give you a comprehensive report. IG Douglas Kanja essentially said, look, I am the IG, but within that controlled space, being Central Police Station, they have to be the ones to tell us, and IPOA is here, so they have to be the ones to tell us in as concerns the investigation. What exactly happened? What am I leading to? I'm leading to our 7 a.m. conversation, and we'll be joined by the Senator for Kisii County, Richard Onyonka. He'll join us at 7. He'll also be in the presence of the first chair of the National Police Service Commission. And his name, as you may or may not know, is Captain. Oh, no, I've gotten it wrong, have I not? There we go. Johnston Kavuludi is the first chairperson of the National Police Service Commission. He will join us with Senator Onyonka at 7 a.m. We're going to be looking around. So the senators ask questions of all of these individuals and what happens next. There have also been years of reform in the police service. There have been calls for reform. And one of the men who was behind a lot of these reforms and pushing for this agenda was Mr. Johnston Kavuludi. So he joins us with the senator at 7 o'clock for that conversation. And I'm just jumping into it and letting you know the things that we'll be talking about. So we do that at 7. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll continue into conversations around the budget. One of the big issues that is already looking at being defunded is education. And we know what the uproar is. So we continue that conversation then into looking at more money that will actually be going into the police service. And we will have Mr. Kavuludi join us with Boaz at 8 o'clock. We'll be looking at education and security in the budget, promises versus priorities. We'll round things out with John Kamau, who is a forensics lead at PwC Eastern Africa, and we'll be looking around issues of agriculture, and Dr. Dennis Miskela, who's the Deputy Secretary General of the KMPDU, will be looking around issues of health. So if you take a look at what we're doing today, we are starting off with the conversation that is still grabbing national attention, and then we will go into budget, and we will split that into 4 sectors where we're looking at security, we will look at health, we will look at education, and we will look at agriculture. Big ticket items as we then talk about budget 2025-2026. So that's what it looks like today. Those are the conversations that we'll be having already from the jump. Welcome to our audiences. KTN, good morning. And also our live streams are up on Facebook, YouTube, and on X. And everybody who's tuned in around terrestrial radio on our frequencies around the nation. Good morning. Ndu, Dennis, and Dennis with you. And as we get into a number of conversations, we see you trickling in. We'll say good morning to you and a hello. But first of all, let's go to Uganda.
Uganda, the part of Africa, the home that has over 50% of the world's gorillas, food basket for the East Africa region, as well as the home of one of the oldest presidents in the continent, right? And our proverb today, the hen that stays at home does not find food. The hen that stays at home does not find food. What do you make of that, D.O.?
Any proverb with a hen in it. Always ends up being funny. All right. So the hen that stays at home
does not find food.
Does not find food. It's pretty simple. Get out of your comfort zone. Opportunities are out there. Go get it.
Absolutely.
Go get them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very true. I agree.
Like you can't sit at home and wait to be fed, wait for life to happen.
No.
You have to go out there and do something.
Absolutely.
Like the way they say, I have to go out and hustle. And hustle hard.
Hustle.
So you have to make something out of your life by working or using your hands to do something.
Indeed.
Yeah. The Bible is against laziness. The Quran is against laziness. So staying at home means you're just lazy. Go out, do something. Work.
Yeah, absolutely. Ambition cannot be lazy, can it?
Nope.
At the same time, one of my aunties used to say, looking for husband and you're sitting in the house. How will they see you? Get out. Son.
Get out. Fix yourself up.
You're the one who was told that.
I was not the one that was told that, but she
your
used
auntie
to
was
say,
just telling you.
No, she was telling her daughters who happened to be my cousin.
No, your auntie was very wise.
happened to be my cousins.
You know, aunties will address you on something, but they will sound like that.
Else.
Yeah. You know, the other day I was telling your cousin, the other cousin, you need to get married now.
The only way is to get out.
Yes.
Fix yourself there.
But the auntie is addressing you. Very, very wise.
Naso. Yay.
Yeah.
Or you remember how you were you beaten when you were a kid?
Never.
What?
I was a model child. Telling you.
Wow.
No slap.
Okay, maybe
no pinching.
Of course that, but like now that thing.
No sleepers.
Well, I mean, there was the odd spanking every now and then, of course, because a child will be naughty here and there. But now that as a unit of good behavior.
I only remember one time. One time, the Aseto came off on me. Oh my Lord.
He was making an example of you.
Hey. And it was not just me, it was myself and my friends, pretty much the entire community. Because what happened is, it was during the December holidays. My cousin had died, had drowned at the lake. So my dad had gone to attend the funeral. So he's gone. As we are back in Eldoret, I've gone to swim in a Sosiani River in Eldoret. So he comes back that evening. He doesn't find me. Then my sister snitches. Walitoka hapa na towel na mafuta. Then my dad knows. So I am from another funeral and you want to go die. You will find me. Hey, bro. 6 of us in the living room. I will never forget.
He was beating all of you.
Yeah.
Like relay.
I had to snitch.
He's done with you. He goes to the next.
I had to snitch on everyone else. But anyway.
What is it when growing up? Because I remember a serious beating my dad gave me because I went to a dam near Kasarani.
Yeah. What is it with you people in water?
I was going to... That's why we don't like water. When we grow up, we don't like water.
You had enough of it when you were...
We have trauma. Okay. We have PTSD with water and beatings. You get... So, me and my friends were going to catch fish. So, as young boys, we couldn't tell the difference because, we'd see on TVs, movies, people have aquariums with goldfish and all that. So it was difficult to tell a tadpole from
a fish.
Yes. So I come home with tadpoles and I'm telling mommy, look,
I got a fish.
Got goldfish.
Shockaroo.
Tadpoles are ugly to be goldfish, bro. You guys are trouble.
My dad beat me like he didn't know me. But there's a way you can get a beating as an example to others who are watching. Yes. Like you do something similar, this is what you're going to get.
Will happen.
But kids today don't get that. I rarely see kids, well, maybe it's where I live, I don't know. But I rarely see kids being beaten the way we were beaten.
There was, I actually think that parents at that time also had some trauma, some emotional trauma that they were going through.
So they were unleashing that on all of us.
They were just off colonialism. So
wait.
But spare the rod, spoil the child.
Very true. I actually do believe in that. I do. And let's say hello to people who are tuning in this morning. It is, the 12th of June. 11th of June. Please, somebody help.
What are you saying?
It's the 12th of June.
12th.
Good Lord. Okay, so we're going to get into this at some point and properly. So people tuned in this morning. We see you. Very, very good morning. Jimmy Gakio tuned in and says, good morning, Team Spice. Don Sabwa, good morning. Ndu Dennis times 2. A follow-up. Ndu, did you take sugar? I did not. In fact, they're both my witnesses. Today, I didn't.
I made sure she doesn't take sugar. I made sure. Because I'm also not having sugar.
There you go.
I told you I'm on a carnivore diet. So
keeping me righteous.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do this. Worry not. Robert Tumogo says, good morning from Mombasa. Good morning, says Michael Olanda, Team Spice. Tuned in from Dayton, Minnesota is where Cyprian Kambuni is. Tuned in from Tamu. Habari zenu, Mukoaje, Baraka Tele Kwenu, says Rose Grace. Good morning to you. Good morning, Princess Ndu and D Square. Good morning. The pressure keeps on increasing on them. Truly, we've got to keep speaking about these issues. Absolutely. Cannot keep quiet. Desmond Uti says, good morning. Hello, Kuzos. Leaders hate to be criticized by members of the public. That's true. Saseni says, well, good morning to you. Good morning, Spice family. Yesterday was wow. And thanks. And to think that those guys came to your offices looking for what? Persons talking ill of the DIG. Can't wait for the show. Okay, I hear you, Jimmy Munuthi. Good morning to you. Good morning, good people. New day, new opportunities. Have a good one. Thank you so much, Simon. Anything lately says good morning. Bwakiri SpiceFM. Salamu kutoka Shanghai. Shem Ondera says, good morning, everybody. Hisa Daniel is tuned in. Mwasuse Mtia Yasebo Nenyabo. I think you're greeting the Sebo.
Yeah,
and the Nyabo. Thank you so much. We know where you are. Shikamo Ndu and Dennis squared. Dennis's. Asanteni sana kwa kazi safi mnayofanya. Asante sana. Thank you so much, young Jedi. Salamu nyingi kutoka Nairobi. Ann Gore, good morning to you. Hello, Princess Ndu. Good morning, Leo. Yesterday's Senate proceedings was a mix of hiding behind protocol, utter disdain for citizenry. Well, let's see a little bit more about that today. Gathoni Wabushomba is already saying bring her back. It's in the works. Don't worry, Matthew. Eda Tachu, good morning, Daktari. Good to have you here. Stay safe today. Practice mindfulness. Thank you so much. Bwangi Juma is also tuned in and says, confirm how you are. Hiya. Okari, confirm. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Very good. Aseto, confirm.
Fine, thank you.
Very good. Ndu, fine. Thank you. Checked in? Check. We are fine, Bwangi. Thank you so much. Hi, cousins from all over the universe. We see you. Eric Awar says, good morning, guys. Precious Gondi says, good morning. Tuned in champions. What was the essence of Murkomen trying to settle scores with Cherarge? I know. Every time given a platform, they'll do it. From Hong Kong. Please, I beg, let's not get distracted by government in the case of Albert. Absolutely not. We kick off with that this morning. Robinson, good morning to you. Ongani Malala says, good morning, and the Dennises. Ndu the Dennises. I like the conversation you had with Javi and Simiu. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Good morning, cousin, says Agola. Good morning, sister. Tibbs Muga is tuned in this morning. Dr. Venvik is here. Soldier Boy tuned in as well. Jose Mahinda says, good morning. And Charles Kangeve is also here. Bonjour, mes amis. Thou art embraced from Kilifi. Good morning, Atieno. I like you. Ken Daniel says, good morning, listening from the Bush capital, AU. Australia? Where? James Dan says, good morning, my seniors. Here is another opportunity I got to tune in. Where is Elder CT? Worry not, he will be back. I keep telling you, just relax. Duncan K says, good morning, tuned in from Roy. Steve Bay is also tuned in. Kaval Felix is here. Baka Joshua says, good morning, Ndu from Dubai. The phrase guilty until proven innocent. Is there such a thing? Well, Kennedy Ongwai says, good morning, glued to the screen as usual. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much. Muthoya Fiaka is tuned in from Kitengela. Masharian Jero is also here this morning. Good morning, my beautiful people, says Tony Muhoho. Stephen Maina says, good morning from Nakuru, enjoying the show and the hen. Are you actually eating a hen? Or did you enjoy the proverb about the hen? I'm playing with you, man. I'm playing. Jaber says, Nyaje was say, Ndu Aseto and Okari, good morning. Charles says, Ndu amejipiga on goal. How? What did I do? We see you, Beatrice. Jaber, good morning. Hey, everybody's tuning in. Wafe, Ben Yawi, the diplomat. Mutuflani, good morning. Zina Safari says good morning. Morris Andati. And Steve Bay says loud and clear from Texas. I love it that you guys are supposed to be going to bed, but you're going to stay up a couple extra hours for us to get into the Situation Room this morning. Always good to have you. And as we get into these conversations necessary for us to dig in, we have to talk, we have to speak, we have to be aware. All right, guys, if I didn't call you doesn't mean I didn't see you. There's so many of you here and we keep recognizing you as you come in. Sawa. All right, we're going to look into the headlines this morning and find out what is actually making the news. On the front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, what does it tell us? Killer squad boss, it's a question.
What?
Let me breathe first. Extrajudicial killing. Is Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat the man pulling the strings behind a shadowy police hit squad? With influencer Albert Kamau dead in police custody and 2 more bodies found mutilated in Elgeyo Marakwet, outrage is boiling over. From Parliament to protest lines, calls are mounting for Lagat to resign and face justice as the DIG's grip tightens. A nation demands to know: is Kenya's second-in-command officer the real godfather of extrajudicial terror? Well, this is going to be covered on page 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of The Standard. And Douglas Kanja, who is the IG of police, this was a quote from him. There was a complaint that had been launched by the DIG KPS about his name being tarnished. It is on that basis that investigations were being carried out, and because he also has a right to be protected by the same law. This is what he said in reference to that. DIG Eliud Lagat speaking on the 25th of May in Teptin, Elgeyo Marakwet, after the murder of a father, Alela Bet, said, "The elders have said you need 3 days, and I have agreed with that. You said tomorrow is on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We are watching you. I am hoping we will get those involved by Thursday. It will not be business as usual. We will not agree." This is what he had said previously. So those are the stories that we start to look into. Koskei has illegally taken public seal from the AG. Lobby tells court. Allah. Okay. So the seal is not where it's supposed to be. And that's a headline. And looking into that. Lagat credibility questions as he demands justice. And fake news headlines. GSU visit to Standard, then Ojwang's murder. It's not true. Okay. We'll look into that as well. Murkomen on the hot seat over teachers' death. And this is the same thing that we're looking at now. And of course, looking into budget headlines. Mbadi's balancing act amid mounting debt, revenue shortfalls, and struggling Kenyans. What is it that is going to come today? Kenya's debt has risen, by the way, according to the controller of budget, Dr. Nyakango, by 780 billion shillings in 9 months. By the time a woman gets pregnant and delivers her baby, Kenya has gone up in debt by 780 billion shillings. Just for you to know, those are some of the headlines. Aseto, some more?
Yeah, let's go to the Daily Nation. And there, again, Lagat under siege. That including a lot of questions that were being asked by senators yesterday. And Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang, you cannot be in office still having authority, yet you are the person being investigated. Kenyans want to see him stepping aside and going to police station to record a statement. And former AG Justin Muturi as well gave a statement yesterday together with the opposition. And we are calling not just for the resignation but the arrest and arraignment in court of Lagat within 24 hours from issuance of the statement. And DCI boss as well gave his account in the Senate yesterday. I am urging the House that the mood in the country should not be used to victimize Lagat. Let us wait for the investigations to establish the circumstances under which Ojwang died. And Senator Buru Oginga, I don't think the DIG was an innocent complainant in this matter. His role must be investigated, as well as IMLO Executive Director Grace Wangeshi, KHRC Executive Director Davis Malombe, and Muranga Senator Joe Nyutu, all giving their statements over the same, as well as our senators shocked by revelation that CCTV footage at Central Police Station had been tampered with. One begs the question, what exactly do they want to hide? What is this thing that even the CCTV that has been taken over by the police as investigations continue, is being found to have been tampered. And Ruto Raila first budget today, big day for the broad-based government. Just what exactly will John Mbadi be presenting, and what are the hits, the misses, and exactly what is the truth? All that has been conversed in the Daily Nation.
Okay, Okari.
All right. Now, Business Daily. Mbadi walks tightrope as Gen Z riots shape the budget. So the National Treasury's revenue targets from the finance bill for the year starting July have been cut by 91%, or 314 billion, after the state opted not to impose significant new taxes or increase existing ones in budget proposals. What happened yesterday when we had Mshomba is, yes, this is what's on the surface, but the devil is in the detail. Now, at the bottom, funding. Kenya is set to push for new IMF deal in September. So, Kenya is set to push for a new program with the International Monetary Fund when a delegation from IMF visits the country in September. So, Central Bank of Kenya, Governor Kamau said the government would seek to take advantage of the fund's regular health check of member countries to push for a successor program following end of a previous arrangement in March. So Kenya wrote to the IMF in the same month requesting a new funded program with a fund despite missing key targets in the previous deals, including revenue expectations. You know, you hear IMF in the same sentence with Kenya and deals, and it starts giving you some shivers. Now, Treasury to spend 1 trillion on public debt repayment. So the National Treasury will spend 1 trillion in payments on public debt in the next financial year, reflecting the impact of mounting debt on Kenyans who are reeling from the high cost of living and multiple taxation. Now, there's another story here. I think it's my last one. That's very, very interesting. Ruto government sets record for most user data requests to Meta in 1 year. Now, listen to this. Kenya has been contacting Facebook's parent Meta every year to request information about some user accounts for legal or emergency reasons. Now listen, data released recently shows that last year alone, Kenya made the highest number of requests since Meta started publishing information about queries from governments. So Meta, through its Transparency Center, says 49 user accounts in its platforms were queried by President William Ruto's administration last year. In total, Kenya made 35 requests, making it the 7th in Africa in these queries. So regarding the nature of the request, Meta now says that 7 of the 35 were related to emergencies, while the rest were made towards instituting legal processes. So you have a Facebook account, you never know if there are queries to find out what exactly you're doing, who owns the pages, and all that. However, Kenya did not convince Meta to disclose information every time it asked. So according to the data, only 33% of the 12 requests made in the second half of 2024 saw it provide any information to the government. You need to read this story.
We will, and we'll look into the details of it because, my goodness, 7th Africa, and the questions around that is, okay, so what were they looking for? You have to ask
emergencies
that.
And...
Okay. Yeah. It's 26 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're going to take a break and then come back and look into the details of these stories that are making the headlines. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 13. Also looking then today into a sunny Nakuru at 13 and a partly sunny Nyeri at 15. It's 13 and sunny into Eldoret, and at 23 Mombasa will be mostly cloudy with cloudy conditions at 25 into Malindi. It's clear at 18 in Kisumu, while Kakamega at 15 will be clear through Thursday. Kampala's clear at 19, and we're looking into a sunny Dar es Salaam at 24. 3 degrees and getting cooler in Johannesburg and mostly clear, while Mogadishu will be cloudy at 27. It's 14 and sunny into Addis Ababa. Cloudy at 25 in Lagos with mostly cloudy conditions at 24 into Kinshasa. It's a warm day getting into monsoon season in Beijing. It's 32 degrees. It's 17 and cloudy in Paris, while London at 14 is cloudy, and New York Wednesday night is clear at 23. Coming into Tuesday, highs of 29 and lows of 21.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so what is it looking like on the streets today? All roads lead to where? Well, let's see. A little bit of traffic starting to build up as you come off the thicker superhighway, and we'll see that progress as you get then through towards Survey. For most parts, coming off of Kiambu Road, it's starting to build, and we'll see the signs of what might be a crazy Thursday morning. It's looking good as you come out of Westlands, however, and onto Waiyaki Way. We don't have too much of an issue unless you are just around that area of the address. Uhuru Highway is fine. It's going to connect all the way from Mombasa Road past the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, taking in traffic and moving along swiftly. North Airport Road looks good for now. Jago Road is starting to pile up, and we're just seeing the slim pickings of traffic this Thursday morning. We're going to keep an eye on all of this and try to keep things moving. Talk to us and let's do it together. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
23 minutes to 7 o'clock. Yes, looking at headlines in the Star newspaper this morning as well. On the front page, Ojwang tortured into a coma in Karura. Ex-teacher driven back to Central Police Station unconscious. This is what the headline is in the Star, and I'm going to start off with that particular story, shall we? When we look into the more meat of it. It's on page 2. And this is what the account is that we are being told. Page 2 is normally after page 1.
Yes.
Just confirming. And also it's on page 4 and 5. And we're just looking at 49 killed by cops since January, according to the civil society. Secret night up. Albert Ojwang tortured into coma in Karura Forest. This is what the Star is saying. Albert Ojwang, the father of a young family, beloved high school teacher and outspoken social media influencer, was tortured inside Karura Forest before he was taken unconscious to Central Police Station, where he died, according to credible sources that have revealed to the Star. Contrary to the conflicting accounts by police of what transpired, a clear picture has emerged of a carefully planned secret operation involving powerful figures within the security establishment. Now, sources close to the ongoing investigation say between 9:35 p.m. and 1:39 a.m., the time of Ojwang's death, as recorded in the occurrence book, has been removed. He was removed from his cell and taken to Karura Forest. Okay, I'm reading the story from the Star. The truth is, Ojwang was in good condition when booked, but he was moved later that night, tortured and returned nearly lifeless, said a source familiar with the case who spoke on condition of anonymity. IPOA Deputy Chairman Anwar Jiko confirmed before the Senate yesterday that the CCTV system at Central Police Station, especially near the cell holding Ojwang, was interfered with. She did say this very clearly. She said that there was a problem. They were not sure if the memory card had been removed or whether it had just been unplugged, or whether it was a case of sabotage, but that is what they wanted to look into. This is connected with the story that's carried on the Standard this morning, and the questions are arising that the information that was being delivered to Senate yesterday was disjointed, right? Uh-huh. Everybody who came to give a testimony or who was asking questions or answering questions rather, it was not it didn't join. You couldn't connect the dots from the testimony that they were giving. It was difficult to be able to do so. And whether we had IG Kanja who was saying certain things, but essentially what he did is that he took this and passed it off to IPOA. And he said, you know what? This is what we know. According to the occurrence book, this is what we see. But IPOA is here, so we are going to allow IPOA to finish their report, and they'll get back to us in terms of what happened. The DCI boss, Mohammed Amin, also came, and when he was asked certain questions, he said what he was in good stead. He said two conflicting things, and we could visibly see that the Speaker of the Senate, Kingi, was a bit irritated because he said the question as to why he was taken from Homa Bay to Nairobi on what you are calling a crime or an offense of a national nature meant that he could have been questioned, kept anywhere in the country. But there was the insistence on bringing him to Nairobi. Why did that happen? We didn't get a clear answer there. Also, he said that a call was made. IPOA then came and said, well, it's alleged that a call was made. We are still to establish whether that call was actually made between Albert and his wife. IPOA is yet to have conversations with the family today and to take their statements. She did say that a number of them had been questioned, a number of police officers.
Around 11.
Around 11 of them,
Yes.
the OCS included. And the question that rang through, and I remember that Senator Crystal Asige was asking this question. You arrested a man because he's said to have offended because of his actions on social media. But now we have a case of murder. Why are the people who were in the vicinity, who were said to have picked him up, why have those people not been arrested?
Yes.
That didn't make sense. So unfortunately, a lot of the information that came through Senate yesterday was disjointed. And you can see that it's very different from different quarters. IPOA seems to want to be asking questions and getting solutions, but it just seems as though it's a little bit difficult. And why it's taking so long, I think, is the question that's coming around. Why is it taking so long for you to, number one, get your story straight? Number two, if there is a murder case that has happened here, why is it taking so long to arrest people? Arrest the suspect and then arrest suspects.
Yes.
And then let's have a conversation after that. Remember, you arrested this young man because somebody is a complainant. Nobody died. Nobody was stolen from. You're saying that image was tarnished, but you arrested him and he ended up dead. And the people who were in the vicinity, whether it was in Homa Bay all the way to Nairobi, are still walking around free.
Niseme nisiseme.
Sema.
Niseme nisiseme.
Sema.
You know what? I wasn't surprised. And I'll tell you why I was not surprised. From the statement of the CS, it was very clear the direction everyone else was going to take. And you know why? It is because somebody is going to be thrown under the bus.
Yes.
And the script, when you want to throw somebody under the bus, is you play the other side. So you are also the one questioning. You're also the one who's trying to seek some answers. You're also the one who you're innocent in this whole conversation. You also want to know. So you're like the rest of us Kenyans who are wondering what exactly happened on that day. And let me tell you something, some glaring thing. Well, it's actually a lot of, there are a lot of like flash points in all the statements. But if you look at the timeline of events, when did Albert die? That was Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, correct? When is today?
Today is Thursday.
How many days?
4.
4 days. Now, because this was raised, if this was a member of parliament,
24 hours.
Within 24 hours, let's look at quickly just the timeline of Charles Were. Unfortunately, he was murdered on 30th of April. So 30th of April, the timeline of events and the investigative updates, how we were getting them. So he was shot and killed at a traffic stop on Gong Road.
Yes.
That one was premeditated and we were told. On May 1st, this is April 30th, on May 1st, the president publicly condemned the killing, describing it as targeted and premeditated. The opposition leader also spoke. April 4th, how many days are those? From 30th?
4.
May 4th, rather.
The National Police Service announced they have arrested 4 suspects already by this time.
Yes.
Allegedly linked to some gang following that night's murder. Now, April 7th, the National Police Service highlighted the CCTV footage, captured the assault, confirmed the motorbike's presence and timing, and established that Were was shot 4 times in a calculated hit. The car was even there. So the question is, if we move forward, just fast forward, how fast it happened. Within a span of 3 days, well, within 24 hours, we already knew what had happened and who are the people behind it. Within day 4, CCTV footage was already availed. Now, the question I'm asking, if we can't get the CCTV footage inside Central Police Station, do we have CCTV footage outside the police station? Can we then tell through the OB number, which has the time when he was booked in, let's look at the CCTV footage getting into Central. How many vehicles got in? We were told about this Subaru that actually drove in from Homa Bay to Central. It's easy to tell that this vehicle entered, all right? To some degree, you can actually, if you walk around Central Police, across the road, you've got shops there.
You're in. There's a bank
Have
there.
we tried to find out whether those CCTV footage, whether they are working? The other question is, did Albert post anything on social media?
Did he?
No.
He didn't.
Actually, what is coming out is it is somebody else who posted something, was arrested, and taken to Kamukunji police station.
And was let
this
go
person,
on Monday.
Yes, was let go. Well, they're saying because they couldn't get any sufficient evidence and all that, but it's because people made noise. But this person mentioned Albert Ojwang, and so Albert Ojwang was picked from Homa Bay as a person of interest.
Yes. And you see, when you talk about the CCTV footage, one of the things, I think in a report that was there yesterday, they were looking at the CCTV footage because there are 2. One that looks outside at the entrance and one that actually looks at the entrance inside the police station. So if the CCTV they're talking about is the one that is inside the cell, how about the other 4 CCTV footages that are outside that will tell us the story on how he was getting in?
You know what? If we're looking at the timelines, and I think that's a great comparison that you've done, Okari, if we're looking at the timelines between what happened with the former, rather the late Ongondo Were, we're looking at 3 days, which is 4 days, which is today, if we're going to compare. By this time, they had already established, and I'm asking the people who had found CCTV footage, the people who had established, who are they? Who are these people doing this?
Police.
It's a police, Abby?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, they can actually then be able to do the same thing right about now. You guys,
Sema.
They know what happened. They know what happened. Who are we trying to protect in the face of a young man who is dead? And the way in which he died was abhorrent. We're here faffing about, trying to say who is doing what. We don't know. We are passing, waiting for IPOA. You can already see what has happened. And more information is going to come out. I say, actually, you know what? Somebody needs to do themselves a big favor right now. And you know what? Just tell us what happened. Because you already know. You know what happened. You know who did it. You know who was there. If we're seeing that IPOA refused, if you look at what she said yesterday, they have refused to say and confirm a number of things. Number one, you're telling us that Ojwang spoke to his wife. IPOA came out later in the same Senate and said it is alleged that he spoke to his wife. We are yet to get testimony from his wife, which I don't even know why it's taking long. We have then petitioned Safaricom to give us the call records from his number. We have his number. We have not done that yet. I happen to know that it doesn't take that long to get that information from Safaricom. We don't even know if that conversation was had. He's said to have been in good health. Who reported that he was in good health when he arrived at Central Police? Who is that person? Bring them. It is usually signed, like you say. The occurrence book is there for a reason. Who is the person who noted down that he was in good health? Senator Onyonka, who will be with us here at 7 o'clock, asked the question and said, you know what? It is said that the OCS, Talam, declined to receive and sign the person of Ojwang. Why? Why did he refuse? Think about it. The responsibility is upon your signature if you have received him. What happened to him if you say you have received him in good health? These are the questions that are being asked. And there is a game that's being played, and it's very clear. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it has feathers and can swim with webbed feet. My God, it's not a camel.
There's a question that I was asked yesterday by a certain individual, Aseto. Is the police there to work for the people, or is it there to protect the leadership and those who run the country? Because the feeling is, if it's an MP who dies within 24 hours, 4 days, we have all the answers. We are able to follow the foot trails, CCTV and all that. But when it is Albert, we do not have this information. Seems as though the police are there to protect the leadership and not the people.
You know, it's a classic case of if you put these two side by side, because I'm keen looking at the timeline of events, early investigation steps, because in any whenever you are investigating any case, and in this case we're looking at the killing of or the murder of Albert Ojwang, you have the on-site response. Yes. You've got evidence gathering. You've got how the treatment of this evidence is done. So if you're to look at key confirmed facts, when the MP was murdered in Ngong Road, you're looking at time of shooting. Let's look at the time when Ojwang actually was pronounced dead. It is said he was pronounced dead on arrival.
Yeah.
So he didn't receive any form of treatment. He was already dead by the time he was arriving at Mbagathi, correct? The exact location, where did this happen? Then you're looking at the route they used, how they traveled from Homa Bay. They took a break at Narok. They gave him some soft drinks, refreshment and biscuits. That's what they say. Then straight, they drove to Central. How many hours were those? Then let's look at the injuries. The post-mortem report is clearly telling us, because I said here the other day, even if the body is not alive, it will still speak. So Albert is telling us this is what happened to him through the post-mortem report. Then you look at the evidence gathered in the MP's case. There was the CCTV footage, there was forensic ballistics, there are eyewitness testimonies. Now, in the case of Albert, we don't have CCTV. There are questions around witnesses.
In fact, they were telling you that the CCTV was tampered with.
Yes.
Continue.
These officers who went to arrest him were not told their whereabouts, whether they've done any statement. We don't know. So all we know is the interdicted officers at Central who are just on duty. The other question is this: if he was murdered inside Central Police Station, what was the OCS or the officers on duty that day? What was their motive? Because the DCI brought Albert all the way from Homa Bay
to them.
So try to establish motive in this crime. What was their motive? What was the motive of the OCS to kill Albert or to injure Albert in that case?
Yet you're being told the OCS rejected to receive him.
There are too many crossed and blurred lines in this thing, and I'm telling you, the more and more testimony is given around these blurred lines, it convinces you even further that we know exactly what had happened. But to bring it out is going to, it's going to put a noose around the neck of a certain number of people. That why do we have blatant condemnation when it comes to certain people of certain crimes that have been committed in this country, and then later on we're pussyfooting around an issue? First of all, we didn't want to call it murder in the first place. We didn't want to say that anybody had anything to do with it, according to the police. And then later on, now we're condemning in the highest whatever whatsoever, and we're saying that certain people must maybe be arrested, but we are not getting to the heart of the matter. We are not hitting the nail on the head, not because we can't, we just don't want to. It's taking too long.
If we go back to the issue of the DIG, there's another twist. So on page 4 of the Standard, there's a story of how a fake news headline, a GSU unit, came to the Standard Group. So if you're again to go back a bit and look at the timeline, this story is so twisted.
Can I help you?
Yes, please.
Okay. DIG Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat pulled the strings behind Albert did he pull the strings behind Ojwang's brutal killing? The deputy IG is in the eye of a storm, with growing fury from Parliament to protest lines demanding his resignation and his prosecution. His ties to officers who are at his beck and call have been demonstrated when elite officers from the General Service Unit stormed the Standard Group offices, wanting to know if a headline with the newspaper banner doing rounds in the newsroom was actually a product of the media group. The incident has been condemned by the Media Council and commentators who wonder whether storming the offices was the only way to find out. They came in a Toyota Probox. This, coupled with the way the alleged killers of Father Alois Bet were abducted and later killed, has led Kenyans to ask questions on the existence of a killer squad in the police and who calls the shots. So what are we saying? They did come in a Probox and they asked questions about this headline that we are seeing that is brandishing our boss's name. Was it actually from the Standard? Mm-hmm. So that's the question that you're being asked.
Yes.
Now, they say it was a fake news headline, and where did it come from? Questions swirl over his links to a shadowy police unit accused of extrajudicial killings. A nation demands answers. Is Lagat the face of a killer squad in uniform? The highly unusual police visit to the Standard Group offices in Nairobi, sparked by a fake newspaper front page headline wrongly attributed to the media house and implicating Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat, has raised eyebrows. So the headline was a fake one. However, there was a visit asking about that fake headline and where it came from and if it was actually the Standard. And there was a demand in terms of, are you guys who wrote this? Are you the ones who wrote this headline? So the question is, who sent them to ask the question? And are we still seeing the same thread of behavior when something comes out in the public?
Can I tell you, I think what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to verify if a headline is fake.
Yep.
So if you go online, there's fake news all around us.
Mm-mm.
So if it's a headline of a newspaper, the easiest way to confirm, there are e-copies of the newspapers, and all you need to do is just click and check and verify
where it takes you to.
Yes. Or alternatively, if you really want to go another direction, go and buy the newspaper. Go to any newspaper stand. Just see what they have there, compare with what you're getting. So if you're driving all the way to come to Standard Group to confirm whether that headline that was mentioning him in the corrupt dealings and all that, whether it's fake or not, is neither here nor there. I'll tell you what it is. It is very simple. There's something called show of force. So if I want to intimidate you, or if I want to show you power, is I'll send some people to confirm Ndu. So did you call me a dog on X? You know, the people, the muscle I'll send to you will terrify you. You'll be like, hey, if you are thinking, if you dare think
about calling me a
dog, just know there is muscle that I'm going to send you away.
But see, Okari, when you talk about how to find out about these headlines, there is also a structure that the police know very well. If you have a complaint against a media house, you report to the Media Council of Kenya, who follow up with that. Why do you have to come all the way? Like you say, it's just a show of force.
Yes.
And I'm the guy you don't play around with. You know?
Don't mess with me.
Yeah, don't mess with me.
But to me, I'm a bouncer.
Yeah, talk to me all I say.
Do you guys see what's happening? I mean, just imagine that all of this is supposed to fit together into a puzzle, and that there are lines that are being drawn in so many different directions, that even as we look at these stories, guess what? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is day 5. And answers that we would have ordinarily gotten, we haven't gotten. And there are threats being sent in different directions. As you say, a show of muscle, a show of power. This is all happening on a day when the country's blueprint for how it's going to spend money in the next 1 year is actually being, is actually coming out. Can you actually, and we're talking about priorities and we're talking about plans, in what direction should we actually be going? The control of budget in another story says, you know what, as you're looking for more money to then be able to run the country, you've racked up debt by about 780 billion shillings in just 9 months. Public debt stood at 11.6 trillion as of March 31st, according to the controller of budget. Dr. Margaret Nyakango said this comprises 5.24 trillion owed to external lenders and 6.112 trillion due to domestic lenders. In her budget implementation review report for the first 9 months of 24-25, Nyakango said the public debt stock increased by 7% from 10.58 trillion on June 30th, 2024. It's getting stickier. And she says, you know what? Total expenditure plus the money that's owed plus getting to a budget doesn't put Kenya in a very good place at the moment. The briefcase and the man will stand on the steps of Harambee House today as he then makes his way towards Parliament. But that is all going on when we still see a nation under siege.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
That's, so, it's 780
billion.
80 billion.
Yeah.
I was trying to do a quick calculation here to just frame in terms of visually. Just imagine a football. Have you ever gone to watch football?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
The stadium.
Yes. Yeah.
So the football pitch. If you're to stack 780 billion shillings on a football pitch, do you know how many you'll be talking about? 7,800 football pitches to feed 780 billion.
And that's the money that you've racked up in debt in the last 9 months.
Yeah.
Guys, conversations will continue for sure. Good morning at 7 a.m.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. As pressure continues to mount on the government to hold accountable the officers involved in the murder of blogger Albert Ojwang, a group of human rights defenders have now filed a petition in court to initiate a private case against Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat following the mysterious death. Julius Ogogo, Halef, Francis Oma and Peter Goro say the investigative and public prosecution services have failed Kenyans by not taking effective action against Lagat. They claim that the institutions have refused to conduct an investigation to unravel the mystery due to rampant corruption among the officers who are supposed to be handling the matter, despite Albert's family facing a difficult time. This comes as DCI Mohammed Amin appeared before the Senate to be questioned about the murder, naming Central Police Station OCS Samson Talam as the prime suspect. His stance, however, has drawn criticism from Talam, who now says security chiefs are trying to tarnish his name. However, senators have strongly criticized the Ministry of Interior, claiming that there was no sufficient reason to kill a young man for criticizing a high-ranking officer.
The Ministry of Interior suffers from leadership crisis. And it is good the nation has seen the incompetence of CS Murkomen on this matter. And if anybody has to resign, we must start with the cabinet minister.
All this resignation is compounded around a theme of the minister is incompetent. Mr. Speaker, Senator Cherogea was my student. I taught him not one subject, not two subjects, more than two subjects. Mr. Speaker, his performance was below average. Mr. Speaker, he has no legitimacy at all, Mr. Speaker, to question my competence or performance.
Honorable
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable CS.
And I will table.
Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has also maintained that he'll not resign despite pressure from Nandi Senator Samson Cherogea to do so. These statements by security sector leaders come as the Communication Authority and Safaricom have made it clear that they were not involved in any way in assisting in the arrest of Ojwang. And the day is finally here. All eyes are now on the National Assembly as Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi will read the budget estimates for the 2025-2026 financial year. His first budget actually since he was appointed as a CS. This year's estimates are at 4.2 trillion Kenya shillings, the highest ever presented in the country. Of the estimates, 1.79 trillion shillings is allocated for recurrent expenditure, 707.8 billion shillings is earmarked for development, and the remaining 1.34 trillion shillings will be used to service the national debt. Once again, the education sector has been allocated the highest allocation of 701 billion shillings. which is 28% of the entire budget, followed by energy, infrastructure and ICT sector, which has an allocation of 500 billion shillings, health 136.8 billion shillings, agriculture 78 billion shillings, and national security 251 billion shillings. County governments have been allocated 405 billion shillings. This comes as Mbadi reiterated that the government won't increase any taxes in this financial year's budget, but will use existing laws to collect taxes. Speaking at a session with businessmen here in Nairobi, Mbadi reiterated the government's commitment to strengthening business in the country.
Hali tumefika, hatuwezi kutosha uzuru zaidi kwa Wakenya, especially kwa ile tunaita personal tax. Ile ushuru inalipwa moja kwa moja kutoka kwa wananchi wa kawaida. Na hiyo ndiye msimamo wangu, na imekuwa msimamo wangu kwa muda mrefu sana. Ukiendelea kutosha ushuru, sasa badala ya kupata pesa zaidi itaanza kupunguka, kwa sababu wananchi wanafanya biashara ili wao pia wafaidike. Huwezi kutosha ushuru kupita kiasi.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can't run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policies of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, taking a look at what's happening on the streets this morning. Traffic is starting to build. It's coming in thick on the Thika Superhighway through past the Allsops Junction, and it'll take us out towards Survey and then into the city. Maranga Road not looking too bad right now, and Wangari Maathai as you get through towards Westlands. There's spots of traffic on Ojija Road. Always happens to be the case in the mornings. And also coming off of Kiambu Road, we'll see some traffic there as well. We're looking good coming off of Jogo Road, bumper to bumper through in some parts. Landis Road is clear through Kamkunji at the roundabout. Eastern Bypass starting to build as you get closer to North Airport Road and the Cabanas interchange. And there is also some traffic on Outer Ring at your junctions on this side of the Thika Superhighway and on this side of Embakasi. It looks good on Mombasa Road, going all the way through towards Nyaya Stadium roundabout. We're going to keep an eye on all of this and try to keep it moving this Thursday. We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
The finance bill, the budget estimates, the budget speech.
If there are no more taxations, there are no more taxations. Let us not import things into the finance bill that does not exist.
No doubt, you have had it all. The 2025-2026 budget is supposed to be a bold step towards economic growth and stability, focusing heavily on job creation, infrastructure, healthcare, and education. But is this really the case? At 4.24 trillion Kenya shillings, this budget is the largest ever in Kenya's history.
Let the right things be given the right priority.
Join us as we break down the winners and the losers in the budget this year. Right here on KTN and on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning at 11 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Ndu, Dennis with you on this 12th day of June. It is budget day. And even as those estimates are being given, and even as the cabinet secretary goes towards the steps to make that known, there is a storm that is brewing, and we'll talk about that before we get into the numbers. And so into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, and as we do, we are forming conversations then around the recent happenings with the murder of Albert Ojwang and what it would then mean when those who took his life then are questioned or brought to book. We'll get into that conversation in just a minute. Our guest for this hour is already seated, and we'll introduce him to you in just a moment. Before Dennis then tells us about Father's Day.
So, Father's Day on Sunday, and we're here to celebrate fathers because they are the ones that guide, take care of the homes and whatnot. And we all know that fatherhood is a journey of strength, wisdom, and quiet sacrifice. And here on The Situation Room, we had to tell you that we often talk about making meaningful choices. So this Father's Day, with Woolworths, here's one: give dad a reason to smile, relax, and maybe even show off just a little bit, because fathers deserve to show off, they deserve to relax, they deserve to have the good things that life have to offer. Let's show our appreciation with a gift that speaks style and substance. Woolworths is offering 30% of men's sleepwear, knitwear, jackets, and coats until 16th of June, perfect for the dad who enjoys comfort, quality, and a little flair. Whether it's a quiet night or a stylish evening with family, this is your chance to say thank you, Dad, with quality he'll feel. Something worthy of the man who's always been there. Visit your nearest Woolworths store today and shop in store. Terms and conditions apply, and at Woolworths, the difference.
Indeed. So we know the conversation that is on national tongues right now. We know the things that are happening, and even as we head into that conversation, justice and accountability, rethinking police oversight and legislative action. Johnston Kavuludi is the first chairperson of the National Police Service Commission, and he's here in the Situation Room with us this morning. Bwana Kavuludi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room. We will see if we will be joined by Senator for Kisii County, Richard Onyonka, who's supposed to be here. We'll see if he does join us in a bit. However, the conversations will continue. As is our tradition, we go around the African continent every week. We land in a different country and we hear their proverbs. We would like to hear your interpretation of a proverb that Dennis is going to share this hour. Is that all right? Okay.
The proverb today comes from a country within the East Africa region. It calls itself the Pearl of Africa. Heard about it?
The Pearl of Africa?
Yes.
That's Uganda?
Uganda, right?
Yes.
Yes. And in Uganda, there are very many great things about Uganda. It is a country that has 50% of the world's gorillas. It is a country that is considered to be the food basket of the region because they have adequate rain and farming there is booming. That and many more, including a fact that it has one of the presidents considered to be the oldest, 39 years in power, and the wife is equally the what again? The Minister for Education. And the proverb coming from the Pearl of Africa: the hen that stays at home does not find food. The hen that stays at home does not find food. What do you make of that?
That's not an easy one. You see, my interpretation is this. That hen which stays at home already has food. So it doesn't have to to look for it, does it? That's my interpretation. It's adequately provided for, and therefore it doesn't have to go all over the place looking for what to eat. In other words, we are also saying that a person who is properly saddled within the home does not have to go all over the place looking for what may not be available. You are already self-sufficient. That's my thinking.
Fantastic. I mean, and where to find it. Okay. I mean, great to hear that interpretation from you. Bwana Kavulidi, we're in a situation in the country that we normally talk about when you have a bout of illness. By the time your symptoms are bad, you're coughing, you're sneezing, it's been there for a while. Yeah, you've had the illness didn't come with the cough and the sneeze and the headache. It had incubated for a minute, and this is what you see, the outward manifestation of an inward problem. We are in a place today whereby yet another individual has been murdered, and it points to different questions. Extrajudicial killing has been asked, wanton behavior by certain, and not all, we have to be very careful, certain members of a police service previously known as a police force then comes into question. We unfortunately don't have the answers that the nation is looking for in terms of who killed this young man. When those answers will come, we still do not know. And who's going to take responsibility for the overall action that we see unfortunately manifesting in a death today, a torture tomorrow, a disappearance the day after. And sadly but unfortunately, it points back to the police service. And that's the situation in which we are in today. From your point of view, as the first chairperson of the National Police Service Commission, we're going to get some insights from you today, and it would be great if we can just look into some of them from where we are today. And just giving a bit of a background, of course we know where we are, and we were in Senate, we heard from the Senate floor yesterday the questions that were asked, the answers that were given, but it doesn't paint a very clear picture of us, for us, in terms of where we are. Can we get, from your point of view, what should happen at this point? Where should our thinking be going when we seek these answers that we can't find?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me take this opportunity to pass my condolences to the family of the brilliant young man that we lost through what clearly is police brutality. At that level, at that age, is very painful, not only to the parents, but to the entire nation, that we should lose young people at that age with the kind of education he had received and the expectations by this nation and the entire society where he comes from. It's very unfortunate that that has had to happen yet again. I'm saying yet again because for a long time we have had a lot of murders associated with the police service. And I want to indicate that for me, as the first chairman of the National Police Service Commission, I had no misgivings when I took up the appointment as the chairperson of the National Police Service Commission. I saw it as a daunting task, but I felt that together with the team that had been given, we will be in a position to carry out police reforms. And one of the key reforms included ensuring that we inculcate skills, changes, especially soft skills in police officers that will make a difference when it comes to the handling of, the population, Kenyans and other people. And so what we are seeing is a manifestation of what people may say a rogue police service, but I won't put it so. I will indicate that we still have elements within the police service who do not as yet appreciate the fact that changes have been made, changes are expected to continue being made, and Kenyans look up to the police service for purposes of protecting them rather than what we are seeing today. So in a sense, we should be asking questions, especially to the police leadership. Unfortunately, it may not be the entire police leadership. Currently, I will tell you, because I worked with the majority of the senior police officers there now, we have a very competent Inspector General. A very nice personality, a person who is well-trained, well-informed, and a down-to-earth individual whom we can trust. The problem is, can we trust many of the junior officers below him? That may not be so. The majority of them may still have vestiges of the past.
What would make you say that, Bwana Kavuludi?
I say so because we started off by coming up with a new structure in the police service, a command structure. And it became very difficult for the middle level up to the top police officers to appreciate that the changes we were bringing about would benefit the entire police service. In fact, the thinking was we were taking over the command and control of the police service as a commission, when the reality was that the majority of police officers, right, those who are in the lower ranks, felt that they were oppressed. They felt that they were misused, very often abused, and a lot of times they were used by politicians to serve political interests or rich people to serve economic interests. So what we are seeing is indicative of the fact that we may have to rethink our strategy in police reforms. Where we are headed does not seem to be giving us the opportunity to get it right. And I say so because in my thinking, I say that there's been a lot of interference coming from the political arena in terms of ensuring that we don't quite change the police service to be a real service serving the Kenyan. That is what I say.
Mr. Kavuludi, you've talked about rethinking the strategy. How easy is it, one? And you've also spoken about influence. During your tenure as chair of the National Police Service Commission, there was a time where you had death threats on your own life, and you actually received a decapitated human head that was delivered to your office. And there was even a time when there was a threatening letter with chemical substances that was addressed to you and your fellow Commissioner Mido Mohammed at the time. You were the first chair trying to spearhead this change and this rethinking. How heavy is this pushback from the influences that you've spoken about to effect these changes?
I'll say the pushback is quite heavy. For some time, there was the feeling, especially arising from the executive office of the president, I'm talking about Harambee House, that this commission had taken over the power that went with the controlling the police service. And therefore, it needed to have its wings clipped. And there were very specific officers that were detailed to ensure that we do not quite settle down and function in a manner that will make it easy, smooth for us to carry out the police reform process. And yet, clearly, police reforms could not have been done single-handedly by the National Police Service Commission. It is a responsibility that fell upon the shoulders of everybody in government and the entire Kenyan population when you consider that we are looking at a civilian police service, not a militarized police service. So, when you saw the scare that was placed upon me, it was so that I may resign, or the other commissioners also give up. And I'll tell you clearly that that is what encouraged me much more, because I saw that there is need for us to continue with the process of reform, because somebody is uncomfortable. And when it looked like I was unrelenting and the commissioners with whom I worked were unrelenting, the next thing that followed included, and that was the biggest of the problems, changing the law to give less authority to the commission. In 2014 and in 2016, the National Police Service Act and the National Police Service Commission Act underwent fundamental changes to remove certain powers from the commission. And one of those powers which were removed was the power to initiate the hiring and firing of the police command, the top police officers. That is the Inspector General and the Deputy Inspectors General, plus the Director of Criminal Investigations. That was moved from the Commission to the President. So today, we can see that any Inspector General, any Deputy Inspector General has to be too careful not to be removed at the spur of the moment. Because as it stood then under the National Police Service Act, which was the original one, an officer at that level had the security of tenure. Now the IG, the DIGs don't have the security of tenure. Anybody can get around it, and tomorrow you hear that person is not there. But number two, it also emboldened the certain officers, the realization that this commission may not do much to us. But most importantly, when it came to the attention of those who may have planned and decided that they frustrated that commission, when they realized that we are carrying on, and especially with what was provided for under the law, that is under the National Police Service Act, Section 7, which required us, as a process of transition into a police service from a police force, to carry out a transitional vetting. A vetting which will require that certain officers who have not distinguished themselves as serving the public be removed from service. Then it became very clear that we may touch certain people that did not be touched at all. Hence the delivery of that head to me. I told them they can deliver 20, provided they're not killing anybody. They can deliver 20, 100. But then they also went ahead and said, okay, we will send you a bomb in an envelope, which was done. Fortunately, I didn't open it. Oh, they sent poisoned substances. Fortunately, I didn't open it. But subsequently, other commissioners who came in after me were intimidated enough not to raise their heads so high because the Kavuludi Commission was impossible. And I will say that the excesses we are seeing today as a result of officers being emboldened. And by the way, it is not all the officers. When we carried out the vetting process and we removed from the service men and women we thought did not deserve to be in the police service, at the end of each level, we realized that between 3 and 4% of the officers needed to be removed from the service. The rest of them were impeccable, or they were satisfactory, or they were men and women who are professional, competent, and suitable to continue serving the public.
Mr. Kavuludi, we look at the vetting exercise that took place during your time and how that was such a big issue with regard to Kenyans finally getting to trust the police and the services that they offer to them. And we look at years later today and the trust, the fabric and between the public and the police has really destroyed. So in terms of just bringing back the good job that you did in fixing the police, just how bad is it and how much work is needed to bringing back the police into a service and not a force, because it seems as though we are going back to a force?
Let's not be too pessimistic. I still think that we are not too badly off. But we seem to have certain remnants of the police service, especially in command positions, who will want to use officers in the lower ranks for purposes of achieving certain ends, certain objectives that are not in consonance with what society expects. I will tell you that there are times when the commission will be given names of persons who we needed to promote. And, being a person who is well grounded in human capital management, I'll say, and the commissioners will ask, what is it that they have done that will merit their promotion? And they will be told that this is a decision that has been arrived at a very high level, and it is proper that they be given the new ranks that have been recommended. It happened once or twice, and we said, no, it's not going to work, because we have an Inspector General who should make very clear recommendations, because one of our responsibilities, and is defined in the Constitution, is to determine promotions. Not to promote. The promotion is the work of the Inspector General. Ours is to ensure that promotions are being done in a manner that is not discriminative, in a meritorious manner, and in a manner that gives satisfaction to those who are promoted, even those who are not promoted, that is being done fairly. So what did we discover, and which we were not being told? Some of those people had been used to carry out dirty jobs. And because we are not quite inside, we will not be told that this is what they have done. And it made us to become extremely sensitive to anything that we were not very well briefed about. So, like we saw recently, these officers who we understand went to arrest this young man, what happened in between and what may have motivated what happened can be anybody's guess, because we don't really believe, I don't believe, that those officers were as innocent in what they did. It's not going to be prejudicial, but I think that there is an excessive manner in which they exercised the process of arresting And it led to the situation that we are all grieving over in Kenya.
Kavuludi, as things stand, if you are the current chair of the National Police Service Commission, because we saw yesterday in the Senate all this questioning, and there was sort of like a passing of the baton, shifting blame, and nobody wanted to take responsibility. In this case of the Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat, would you then have recommended for him to step aside, allow investigations to be carried out, or even do a statement at a police station? How would you have handled his situation right now? Because he's at the center of it.
The National Police Service Commission, in dealing with the human capital management, has both an advisory role and also the executive role, where definite decisions are made. For example, the National Police Service Commission can dismiss, but the National Police Service Commission may dismiss only when due process has been followed. In this case, one, the allegation is that the Deputy Inspector General, Mr. Lagat, is behind what has happened. Now, all these calls, the fury that goes with it, the anger that you see, is something which should prick anybody's conscience. So first of all, before you even look at the aspect of recommendation, in good faith, where there is good manners, there is good hygiene, I would really expect that Mr. Lagat will say, okay, I know I'm innocent. I want to step aside and give an opportunity to this process to carry on. I know I'm not directly involved in carrying out the investigation, but there are people who may have served under me and are carrying out these investigations. And I want the general public to get to understand that I'm clean. I only made a recommendation. So I step aside and let this process carry on.
Okay, I want to take a break at this point, because then we're going to come back and look at the chain of command and actually how these things do happen, because it's necessary for us to do so, and then also asking and interrogating as to why this is taking so long. And I think it's good that you're here, because then you can give us an insight into these operations and how they normally would happen, and why we would see a delay in some of these things. Johnston Kavuludi is the first chairperson of the National Police Service Commission, and we're having a conversation this morning around the issues that are currently taking the nation. We'll come back after this break and continue. But for the past 5 years, the I&M Foundation has been making a real difference, investing a significant 2% of the bank's annual profit and actually it is the highest commitment of anyone in the Kenyan banking sector into impactful programs. Their work focuses on vital areas like education and skills development, economic empowerment and enabling programs, as well as enabling giving. But today, we want to highlight their leadership in environmental conservation. The I&M Foundation is dedicated to protecting our precious natural heritage through strategic partnerships and community-driven initiatives, ensuring a sustainable future for all. They believe in impact, and achieving it through focused action. As we renew our pact to keep impacting, learn more about the I&M Foundation, the vital work, and how you can potentially collaborate by visiting imbankgroup.com/foundation to learn more. This is powered by I&M Bank.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This June on Next Superstar, the pressure is on. It's vocal battles, show-stopping performances, and edge-of-your-seat showdowns. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded to the next high bouquet for 60 days to watch the battle unfold on Rainbow TV+. The search for Africa's next hit maker just got hotter. Renew your subscription today and get upgraded to the next high bouquet for 2 months free. Who will judges Motive, Size 8, and King Kaka choose to move on to the next round? On the move, stream Next Superstar live on StarTimes On. Anytime, anywhere. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Partly sunny conditions at 15 in Nairobi, at 13, and sunny in Nakuru with sunny conditions at 15 into Nyeri. It's sunny at 14 in Eldoret, while Mombasa is sunny at 24. It's sunny at 25 in Malindi, 19 and sunny into Kisumu with Kakamega sunny at 16. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 20 into Kampala. The sun is up at 23 in Dar es Salaam, while it's 3 degrees and clear in Johannesburg. Mogadishu is sunny at 26 and Addis Ababa sunny at 14. Lagos is cloudy at 25 with mostly cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so into traffic hour, and it's pretty busy coming off of the northern bypass, getting on towards Kiambu Road and through towards Muthaiga Square. And we're also seeing some traffic starting to build. Eastern bypass coming in all the way from that Roy Junction, and it's going to take you through towards North Airport Road, joining with traffic that's in and outbound on Outer Ring. On the other side of things, touching on the thicker superhighway coming in from Garden City, so that's busy as well. We said Kiambu Road is busy; it's going to be there for some time, and we're seeing traffic starting to build right around Limuru Road, coming through towards Muthaiga, and then Lower Kabete is starting to pile. We'll see that seep through towards Spring Valley. Traffic also on Gong Road has built quite some getting into traffic hour. Let's keep things moving this Thursday, and we'll talk and do that on Spice FM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kavuludi is the first chairperson of the National Police Service Commission and is our guest this hour. Of course, continuing our conversation around as tragic as it is that a man is dead. And we can point this towards excesses, a brutal murder of a young man. We can point this towards excesses of a few individuals within the police service. We do not know that it can be anybody else because he's said to have been in their custody from the point he left Homa Bay until we see his body in Nairobi. Now, you talk about the fact that there are those who are high up in rank calling the shots here, and that there are still some rogue elements even after calls for reform in the sector, and that somebody may not have gotten their hands bloody, but they could have given orders. And I'm going to make a parallel between the very, very public case of the genocide that happened in Rwanda. That a lot of the people who went to the ICC and a lot of people who were convicted, one Felicien Kabuga, for example, didn't get his hands bloody, but he was arrested because he gave an order. There was a warrant that was put on his head because he gave an order. Without the order, 800,000 people, for example, in one area would not have been killed. Without the order, women would not have been brutally raped. Without the order, people would not have been killed. Without that order, these things would not have happened. So in as much as you may not have been the one who carried out the physical act, that something was done because an order was given. Do we see within the police service that we are acting on order? Or are people allowed to do what they want without an order?
Now, this is a very precarious situation. precarious indeed. And I say so because I would like to draw a parallel between the National Police Service and call it the teaching service. We have a Director General for Education, and we have an Inspector General for the Police Service. Right down in the sub-counties, we have a chief principal or a principal of a school. They are responsible to the Director General in terms of managing finances and so on. They are responsible to the Teacher Service Commission Secretary in terms of running or managing the teachers. Something goes wrong at the school. The principal there is a very senior person, but something goes wrong. Responsibility will be borne by the person at the top. The assumption here is that you did not do your work well enough to ensure that the principal on the ground is doing the work. What I see in the police service is the kind of thing where there are too many people in charge of various command positions at the county, at the sub-county, at the station level, and so on. Some of whom have taken to excesses to the extent that even the Inspector General gets to learn of it when already they have committed very, very serious mistakes of the kind that should never have happened at all. And in such a situation, what I will expect is the command of the police service to immediately take action against those offending officers. You do not wait for anything to happen.
Why wouldn't they have been arrested by now? And I'm asking this question directly because we saw that Albert Ojwang was arrested. He was arrested on suspicion of him having made maligning posts on social media about one Eliud Lagat. He was the complainant. IG Douglas Kanja pointed to him during a presser and said the complainant is here, and had said this was the issue. Now, in that case, Albert Ojwang was arrested, right? On suspicion. Here, there are many officers who were within the vicinity of Albert Ojwang, and he was murdered. Why would we see that there is slow action in terms of arresting anybody who was within a whiff perimeter of this young man? Why do we not see that they have been arrested?
Well, I wouldn't quite say that they be arrested. They should have been arrested instantaneously. You see, we have got police operating procedures. There are standards that have got to be met, and procedures which cannot be skipped when it comes to dealing with police officers, and they need fair treatment as well. If we immediately say that a police officer, once mentioned, gets arrested, I think we will be being unfair.
This young man was mentioned and arrested immediately. He was taken from Homa Bay to Nairobi without question because somebody complained. And then he was murdered, and then we're still saying that, okay, well, perhaps we should think about it before we arrest anybody who had anything to do with him before he died. Why?
My point is this. You can see what the Inspector General did. The Inspector General immediately interdicted. To interdict in government, having been there for so many years, means that you stop that person from performing their duties, until investigations are carried out. And after interdiction, you may be suspended from work, or you may be dismissed, or you may come back to work, but your rank is reduced. There are many things that could happen to such an individual. So already that is an indication that there is seriousness on the part of the Inspector General to take action. But what I'm thinking may not have happened, and which should really have happened, is that the trail from, I think it's Mawego, police station, we should have had action being taken all the way from there, right? Because somebody in there should be able to give an indication of what it is that they saw all the way. And I really don't believe that this young man was brought all the way from Homa Bay County straight to Central Police Station. There must have been a detour somewhere where he was beaten into pulp, because that is what appears happened. And that place is where we will expect that serious officers at the level of investigation will want to find out what happened in between, because this seems to have been the case. And I'm saying that as at now, I want to believe that serious action is being taken towards establishing who is culpable. Let's not be in such a rush that we even net persons that, because if you arrest, that's an extreme action. But if you stop somebody from working, that's a good action. It's an indication that you're beginning to take measures of the kind that should be taken.
They stopped Albert from living. Not even from just working. They stopped him from living. And then and I hear where you're going, Bwana Kavuludi. But the question is that we don't see a reciprocate action. We are saying, well, let's be fair and follow process, whereby process was not followed when it came to his arrest, his interrogation, and his death, his murder. So the question is here, and I hear what you're saying in terms of process, but then one must ask, Dennis did a brilliant parallel between when we saw the late Member of Parliament, Ongondowere, murdered in May, and within a very quick period of time, there were suspects that had been identified, they had been charged and brought before a court of law, there was condemnation from the highest echelons of government. All of these things happened in rapid succession. The same police service, not anybody else, the same police service. But here, there's a possibility that one of their own might be named, and then we see a very tortoise-like movement when it comes to getting answers. Why would that be?
My thinking is that the movement is not tortoise. Clearly, if you see what IPOA has set out to do and is doing, I want to see that from the light of very swift action being undertaken. I know where you may be headed and where the majority of Kenyans are headed. It is, why is Lagat still in office? I want to tell you, my thinking is that you see, the president of this country has appointing powers. He also has powers to hire. The president of this country also wants to be seen and should be seen as a person who listens. He hears, he listens, and he is surrounded by persons who advise him. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those. Fortunately, there are many others who advise him, and I'll have thought that he will have taken executive action, because that is the only way people will begin to trust him. That's the way they will trust his government, because I see that is where everybody is focused. And if that will help in telling Kenyans that we are taking action that will be long-lasting, it will be a good example that even you, who is in a high position, when you make a mistake of the kind that gets the whole nation gripped with fear, running in fury, I think we will need to take action immediately.
Bwana Kavuludi, it seems to me, by watching the proceedings of the Senate yesterday, so we had first the Interior CS, Murkomen, saying he's also waiting to see the results of the investigations. He has no clue what happened. So he seemed to pass the blame to the IG and is waiting for the Inspector General of Police to give clarity on what exactly happened. Then when the IG stood to give an account of what happened to Albert Ojwang, he also seemed to push the blame to, not the blame, to push the back to IPOA. Same thing with the DCI boss. The president also, in his statement, also mentioned IPOA and said he wants speedy investigations. Now, the IPOA we're talking about here, the chair, Ahmed Issa Hassan, said that in just the past year alone, 136 deaths have been linked to police officers, with an additional 59 people reported to have died in police custody. So, those are the numbers. Now, let's look at executing their mandates. The challenge is here because budget constraints have been repeatedly mentioned and cited in parliamentary reports and by IPOA officials as a major limitation to fulfilling its mandate. So, among the challenges that IPOA, and Issa Hassan saying this, is executing its mandate effectively. They include resource limitations, including a shortage of investigators, operational tools, budget constraints, and non-cooperation from some police officers. These appears to be the same thing that happened to your commission when you took over, the pushback. So my question then is there really independent oversight over police misconduct and extrajudicial killings where we have roles on paper but no executional powers because of all these limitations?
Government is a very interesting institution, eh? Our government. I want to tell you this, that there are certain actions that are deliberate. In my thinking, there are certain actions that are deliberate. IPOA was created to cure a serious problem. But IPOA is facing a lot of roadblocks. I don't think that we are short of resources in this country to make IPOA operate. The same way I'll tell you that many independent commissions today are struggling to perform their mandate. I want to think that we should be open enough as a country to say things as they are. And in my opinion, we are not serious when it comes to getting institutions that are independent to work, to function, to be productive. IPOA, if what they are asking for was given, we should be in a position now to say, if you fail, then you have failed Kenyans, and you should not blame anybody. But as it is now, if we go round in circles, it is the Kenyan public that suffers. Clearly, I want to tell you, as government, there is need for a lot more seriousness. And I'm saying so because we are not painting a very good picture to the international community or even to everybody in this country. If anybody were to come to this country and look at what is going on, look at every TV station, what they are broadcasting, one will think that we are in a very chaotic state. It is the police brutality, police killings, is police this, police that, and so on. Can we minimize this by getting people to do what they need to do? And this is where sometimes I think that very strict measures being taken instantaneously on certain things may make people pull back and say, wait a minute, we should not be doing this because the repercussions will be very severe. And that is why when, for example, we took certain actions as a National Police Service Commission, it shook the service to a very, very large extent. And even when one was traveling, one will notice that there's been a change. We would like to see that change by giving support or support being given to police officers so that whenever they take action, we do not have retribution of the kind that tells them you should not have been doing that.
Bonakavuludi, because of time, very quickly, do you believe that the structural reforms that you oversaw as the first chair of the National Police Service were either hijacked or reversed over the years to where we are today?
I believe that they were both hijacked and reversed. Why do I say hijacked? You see, I have seen people who should not be taking certain actions or making certain decisions, taking decisions that the National Police Service Commission should be making. And I sit back and ask myself, what happened? I thought this is the role of the National Police Service Commission. Why is it being undertaken by officers elsewhere who are not part of this independent commission? So that is hijacking what the National Police Service Commission is supposed to be doing. 2, they were reversed in the sense that, I'll tell you, and I'll tell Kenyans, if one goes to the records, one will find that some of the things that we have done lately were unnecessary. For example, we didn't need the task force. That's my view. By the Chief Justice Emeritus Maraga. We didn't need it. Much of what they recommended, they picked.
From what you had previously done?
What we had done. Absolutely everything. So all that was required was for those who are around the head of state to tell him, we have all this information. What we need is that this should be acted upon. And if it was acted upon, we'll have saved time, we'll have saved money. So I strongly believe that this reversal is a terrible thing. The hijacking has not been good for this country. And I want to believe that those people who hold office should not be afraid that if they take certain actions, which is their responsibility, they'll be removed from office. Boldness is what makes people perform.
Indeed. Johnson Kavuludi has joined us this morning, and we've had this conversation around, what we see as that glaring symptom, but really what's happening in the back end. And thank you for joining us in this conversation this morning. They do continue at 8 a.m.
Traffic.
Medical Services Dr. Omar Luga noted that the arrival of the BCG vaccines is timely and critical for sustaining Kenya's routine immunization program, particularly in protecting newborns and young children against TB. PS Oluga confirmed that distribution to counties will begin immediately to ensure uninterrupted protection of newborns and young children. Dr. Oluga received the shipment alongside representatives from UNICEF, the World Health Organization, who are key partners in procurement and delivery of essential vaccines. 2 Kenyans, Calvin Omondi and Boniface Mwangi, have now written to Chief Justice Martha Koome seeking an injunction to restrain the judiciary from swearing in 6 commissioners and the new chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The petitioners claim that President Ruto violated the court order by publishing the names of the commissioners in the Government Gazette. So if Koome proceeds with the swearing in, she'll be going against the instructions of the department herself heads. In their petition to Chief Justice Koome, Mwangi and Omondi have made it clear that the judiciary is the last hope for Kenyans to have their orders and the law in general respected, urging her to have nothing to do with the swearing in of the commissioners. It should be noted that President William Ruto published the names of Erastus Edung Ethekon as the new IBC chairman, as well as former registrar of the judiciary Anderitu Mary Karen Sorobit, and then Hassan Nur Hassan, Francis Odhiambo Adwol, Fahima Arafat Abdallah and Alutalala Mukhwana as commissioners. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi is expected to present the budget to the National Assembly at around 3 p.m. today. The 4.2 trillion budget will entail details of the government's priority areas of spending and will also indicate the revenue-raising measures envisaged to fund the ambitious budget. Of the 4.2 trillion budget, the Treasury hopes to raise 2.7 trillion through various ways, including domestic and foreign borrowing, tax collection and service charges for government services. But what do Kenyans think about the budget that will be read later today? Here are some of the views we got from you.
Majina yangu ni Benjamin Leti, mkaaji akaunti ya Wasigishu. Tungependa budget ikisomwa leo iwe friendly na wananchi na raia wa Njugu mwenyewe. Inasaidia raia. Commodities usiongezwe. Tunaambia serikali bei ikae hapo. Wasiongeze bei kwa sababu saa hii bei ambayo iko kwa unga, sukari na ile vitu ambayo necessary kwa wananchi wasiguza hapo. Lakini vitu zingine hatuna haja.
Kwa majina ninaitwa Tewa Bengula, mkaaji wa Bungoma County. Mimi mwenyewe, lakini budget yenye inakuja hatujui inaenda kutufanyaje kwa sababu inaenda kutuvinya zaidi. Hata tuoni maana yake kitu cha kwanza. Kwa sababu mnasoma hii, kesho imepandishwa imefika.
Watakaposoma hiyo bajeti, wacha let them favor the citizens that are suffering a lot in terms of these basic commodities.
Kwa majina mimi ni Samuel Ayo, mkaaji wa Homa Bay Town. Bajeti inasomwa leo, so tunatarajia kama sisi ni watu tunafanya kazi ya taxi, tunatarajia hii bajeti tusaidie bei ya fueli rudi chini. Ndio hata sisi tuone kama vile tunaweza kujimudu kimaisha.
And finally, in the international news, the Vatican announced the first appointment of a Chinese bishop under Leo XIV, signaling the new pope's support for a controversial accord on nominations struck by his predecessor with Beijing. The whole See expressed satisfaction at their recognition by China of the appointment of Joseph Lin Yuntan as auxiliary bishop of Fuzhou, capital of the southeastern Fujian province. The Pope made the nomination on June 5th. That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
The finance bill, the budget estimates, the budget speech.
If there are no more taxations, there are no more taxations. Let us not import things into the finance bill that does not exist.
No doubt, you have had it all. The 2025-2026 budget is supposed to be a bold step towards economic growth and stability, focusing heavily on job creation, infrastructure, healthcare, and education. But is this really the case? At 4.24 trillion Kenya shillings, this budget is the largest ever in Kenya's history.
Let the right things be given the right priority.
Join us as we break down the winners and the losers in the budget this year. Right here on KTN and on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard.
All right, still in traffic hour. Take a look, and traffic is still pretty heavy coming in from Langata Road, and it looks like it'll be that way for a minute. Also, Ngong Road traffic is building as you get towards the city. Very heavy coming off of Langata Road, going out towards Aerodrome and then touching on Uhuru Highway. It's busy as you come in on the Thika Superhighway. Traffic is bumper to bumper through from Survey out into the CBD, and it's also very busy on Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic, but it looks like it's all in one direction. Here, Jogo Road busy, then going out towards Kamkunji and touching on Landys Road. We'll keep things moving this morning. Spice FM, KEONX, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Very good morning at 7 minutes after 8 o'clock and into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation in the Situation Room this morning. It's budget day. What does that mean? That we will be hearing what happens when it concerns what Kenya will spend, what it will be spent on, and where the money will come from. We're going to hear that this afternoon and directly from the Cabinet Secretary. At the same time, the finance bill, which had gone through or continues to go through public participation, essentially is what is going to give life to the budget. It's going to tell you where the taxes will come from. It's going to tell you what domestic borrowing will look like. It's going to tell you what external borrowing will look like. And this essentially is the lifeblood of the budget. After this, it will then probably go and become an act. And from the 1st of July, a lot of what we hear then will become law, and that will happen. Now, dependent on all of that, it is necessary for us to be very aware of many of the things that are happening. This hour, we continue with those conversations. Two of the areas whereby it is very important for us to then be able to discuss as to what then happens with these numbers are in security, as we've just been talking about, and they are also in education. So, joining us this hour, we continue the conversation with Bwana Kavuludi, who is the first chairperson of the Police Service Commission. But we also are joined this hour by Boaz Waroku, who is a strategy advisor of the Elimu Bora Working Group. Bwana Waroku, good morning.
Good morning, Ndu. I'm happy to be back here.
Good to have you here. Karibu sana.
Great.
We're joined by Johnson Kavuludi, who's here, and we're looking at certain issues around both of these sectors. Education has always been the big budget item, and now we are seeing some interesting things happening. And also, we're seeing a shift in security when it comes to those numbers in terms of how Kenya will spend. We'll go into that in just a little bit, but we want to again welcome you, Waruku. Bwana Kavuludi has had his go at it, but we are going to share today's proverb with you, and I'd like to hear what you think about that. We've come in from Uganda. And this week, that's where we land. But we want to hear what your thoughts are about this particular one, right? The hen that stays at home does not find food. The hen that stays at home does not find food.
That saying is controversial, that proverb, yeah?
Is it?
Because at home is where there should be food.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, but this hen, definitely this is a hen that should be a hunter. And so at times it is always good to be out there hunting.
Indeed.
But be very careful, because you can also be hunted, particularly for a hen.
Yes, you can. Okay, well, great to hear that. You can also be hunted, not just going to hunt for the food.
Yes, you can also be kitoweo.
Education and security in budget 2025-2026, promises and priorities. This is what we're looking for. Let me give you an overview of basically what they've told us is going to happen in terms of these numbers, right? Yes. The education sector is facing significant budget cuts in 2025-2026 fiscal year, with a proposed 62 billion shilling reduction. This has raised concerns about the potential impact on various areas, including national exams, capitation grants, and the overall delivery of education services. Some of the key issues and concerns that we're looking at already: reduced funding for national exams. We know that, there's a certain fee that you must pay to sit these exams. A major concern is the lack of funds allocated for national examinations, particularly the KPSEA, KJSEA and the KCSE. The initial budget estimates show zero allocation for exam administration and invigilation. Impact on capitation grants. Reductions in capitation grants for primary, junior and secondary schools are causing concern, particularly in public schools and students from low-income backgrounds. Number 3, threat to education reforms. The budget cuts are seen as potentially derailing education reforms and stalling the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, or now, as we see it, competency-based education. That's an overview. We'll go into that in just a little bit. Now, let's look at the security section. The budget faces significant security challenges, including concerns about the allocation of funds to the security sector and potential cyber threats. Increased spending on security, particularly for the National Intelligence Service and the Department of Defense, has sparked debates around the appropriate level of investment and whether resources are being effectively utilized, according to the budget summary for the Parliament. Furthermore, the rise of cyber threats necessitate a strong and optimized cybersecurity budget to protect against evolving risks. And we see that from proposed budgetary allocations, we see an extra 100 million shillings then going towards specifically the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. That's an overview. From these two sectors, that's what we're looking at. Let's start off from education. This would be the first time that we see, Boaz, a significant reduction in the amount of money that is allocated for education. Education after defense has always been the largest recipient of funds from the national budget. What's your take about what we see, especially as it concerns a holistic education that Kenya is giving, or said to be?
Thank you, Ndu, and thanks also to Dennis. I don't know where the other Dennis has gone.
So Dennis, we can see him. We can do that because he's having his budget analysis on TV. He's actually on KTN at the moment.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. But also allow me first to recognize my senior here, Mr. Kavuludi, a great man. He used to supervise my father when he was an education officer in Homa Bay.
Wow.
My dad was a teacher, and I think through that, we become people that we can now interact. Thank you so much. And when you talk about the budget cuts, I think the first, let's reset. Let's just get back to where these matters are. As a country, we know the struggles that we are having or facing in education. And because of that, then this is the right moment that we should have been reflecting and thinking of what should be done so that we do not continue escalating or just continuing with those problems following us each time. Why I'm saying so is because I have looked at the budget, not me as a person, but as our team, Elimobora with the entire membership, including Kenya Human Rights Commission, WASU, and all those agencies. One thing that struck us is that this budget was being done outside of the problems that we are facing as a country in education. I'm saying so because even if they attempted to comply, they should have at least looked at the Munavo report, which has certain recommendations that would have advised them on where to place the weight, where things matter. But I think our analysis, supported by the Budgeti Hub, those are budget experts in this case. They look at the entire budget. But for us, we had sessions where we were looking just specifically at the education one. And we realized that no semblance of an attempt to look at what the Munavo report came up with, that then we should have been addressing and ideally looking at trying to create a remedy. When I start from there, I'm focusing on three key things. One, the transition from the 844 to the to the CBC and now CBE meant that a number of drastic things needed to be done, like increasing the infrastructure. And because the infrastructure, throughout the country, the standards that we have in various schools have not been at par. So there are certain schools that exist just because the name is called a school. Where children are still learning under trees. And even if they are not under trees, the kind of buildings where they are hazardous. In fact, the safety of those learners would still be problematic. But with this transition, CBE is bringing about the element of making these learners really to interact with the environment, to be more action-oriented. Of course, we keep on emphasizing that we should not think about developing the mind, just the intellectual capacity, critical thinking, all those skills that are required. But why I'm bringing that is because in those schools, if the infrastructure that we'd expect to help stimulate learning among these learners is still not being prioritized. then we think there's a problem. So there's one thing on the transition, and particularly looking at the infrastructure, we should have been prioritizing and giving it a little bit more resources. Similarly, we should have also been looking at the teachers. The gaps that we have had, and Ndu, I know that we have diagnosed this and analyzed it to the core, what it means, the number of teachers we have per school and all that. Even if you rush to the JSS, because that is transitory to the senior school, where the gap is largest, we still see that there's an allocation given to TSC to recruit intern teachers. In fact, that to us also means that I think we are dealing with a government that does not learn. When a court declares that recruiting trained, qualified teachers who are ready to teach and terming them interns is anti the Constitution. 237 TSC has been established. They're supposed to register trained teachers. Their work is simply now to recruit and deploy them. And if you convert them back to be interns, the courts express themselves so clearly on this matter, and we should not be quarreling about it. So, but you see that there's a situation where they have still indicated that they'll recruit those intern teachers, and then they're saying they'll be converting those intern teachers to permanent and pensionable. I don't know when, but the provision on that conversion is not there. So in other words, then we'll be dealing with just the intern teachers. But the gap is huge. So when are we going to address those gaps? You'll also be coming to the situation where then, okay, we have had capitation delays. Delays and at some point not even remitted at all. Unpaid, yes, and unpaid. So this the manifestation of this, Ndu, you'd realize that as we speak now, many of our schools have pending bills. Many of our schools. We are indebted in the education sector. I think the figures rotate between 64 billion and even in the excess of 120 billion. Unfortunately. It depends on how you look at it. So even when you started by indicating the 62 billion cut, you know, that is already a hole.
So we're saying that essentially there's a 62 billion shilling cut. Yes. But this is over and above the 64, 65 odd billion shillings that is already owed to the sector across schools that has not been paid over the last 6 years.
That's the picture that I'm coming to. And so when you are dealing with such a situation, and then this remittances is also, of course, within the budget, then you can't be talking about how will these remittances go. But the practice, what we have experienced, is such that now the schools are forced to look for alternative means. And you are aware that Limu Bora did a survey on illegal levies, and we published that and said, the reasons why some of these things happen is because the schools simply don't have money, and the heads of those institutions must struggle. Otherwise, parents and everybody else would be crying. So what should be happening? We should have been seeing that there's an attempt really to address that gap. But we are not seeing that it has been done. In fact, I think you have mentioned the aspect where the teachers, you mentioned the aspect where the cuts have been done, but part of what we are seeing in terms of cutting those budgets, I think they are going to really deal with the budget items in terms of, I think, the capitation that we mentioned. It is going to make sure to ensure that our ability to deliver on education really would not be as expected. But there's one aspect I needed also to bring on board, the quality assurance and standards. As we speak now, I think maybe majority of Kenyans have not had and realized the effect of quality in the absence of the National Education Board and in the absence of a well-constituted Education Standards and Quality Assurance Council. These agencies were created by Basic Education Act 2013. Why? Because they have certain important responsibilities, functions which are assigned to them. In the absence, you ask yourself, who does that? Because even the discussion we are having, we should have been now relying on the National Education Board report. We should have been relying on the periodic and annual reviews that the Education Standards and Quality Assurance Council would be giving us. But in the absence, that's why then you find the technocrats within the Ministry of Education, and of course the overlaps by the TSC in attempting to look and enforce issues on quality.
Yeah.
So those we're saying there's a way in which that budget should have been speaking to some of those. And by the way, when I talk about the Quality Assurance Council, there's also a court declaration that actually demanded or commanded the ministry to establish that. I don't know why there's this the sloppiness with which some of these actions are to be taken. That makes us still fall behind. So ideally, there should be a little bit more of the resources that we see. Go to the tertiary. The new funding model, of course, you're aware, it is the Limu Bora, Kenya Human Rights Commission, the Students' Caucus, and all who took it to court. And indeed, we canvassed there, and the issues that we canvassed, the courts agreed. Only that there's a small window that the court provided to the ministry, just to try and, in the interim, before an appeal, there's an appeal that is pending, the Court of Appeal. I can't get into the details of that discussion. But pending that appeal, they were told to at least create a mechanism for an appeal system by the learners who fail to get the right amount of funding that they require. Even as that is going on, the capitation to the tertiary, to the universities particularly, you're seeing either they have stagnated or some have actually been cut. You look at the allocations given to Egerton University, for instance. But also when we see the ramifications at Moi University where redundancies are being declared, it means that they are not getting the right amount of money. So all this, I think, just in a nutshell, all that gives us not a very good picture. But we thought that, you say, we are talking about experts who have been brought into the treasury, headed by Mbadi and all these guys. I think they should have been more serious. There are people praising them out there. I'm not one of them because I'm disappointed that they don't listen to what the recommendations by experts say.
Should information not be followed then by action? And I think this is one of the things, whether we're looking at in education or we're looking at then things that we've seen that would then be increased by the security sector, for example. Form follows function, we would imagine, and that resources then follow thereafter. There is, and we alluded to this in the previous conversation that we had, Bonakavuludi, that, a lot of the things that we see was based on information that had been gathered. So if you gather this information, you have the knowledge and the understanding, then you would say, okay, this is what we need to do, and this is what the resources should then go towards achieving. And that's why you budget, isn't it? But then here we are seeing that it's almost as if you've just moved things around in this budget that we're talking about, which will be read later on today. But do we use the information and knowledge and understanding that we have to then plan properly? Do we do that? Can you see a manifestation of that?
Well, I must admit that I haven't really seriously studied the proposed budget. But I want to, first of all, commend the work of Elimu Bora and your incisive, analysis of what obtains in the education sector before I take a look at the security which we have been discussing. I particularly take note that you have done commendable work in especially trying to get the ministry to understand that a lot of what is happening is not well grounded in good information, and there hasn't been sufficient consultation which has been carried out. I particularly like what your view is on the intern teachers. As a teacher, as an education manager, I got a little lost. I still am at a loss to understand why a trained teacher, qualified, registered, should now be employed as an intern. What does that translate to? Because we even look at the Education Act, we see the TSC Act, and we don't find any reflection of an internship in the teaching profession at all when it comes to trained teachers. Unless this is being looked at as a way of trying to save money by paying them a paltry sum of money for salary.
15,000 a month.
But that is not helping the education standards. We should have proper budgeting of the kind that ensures that when you employ a teacher, he's a full or she's a full-time teacher who is properly paid and who will be able to carry out the function the teachers are intended to carry out. Then we can pride in having employed so many thousands of teachers, because that is what good budgeting will require. But that is yours. But I still see that we need to do better than we are doing when it comes to managing education, and even with the CBE now. Yeah, from CBC, CBE. You know, all it tells us is that the ministry did not do its work right, including piloting. Because if proper piloting as had been done on the CBC or CBE, we will not be seeing all these changes. That today is CBC, tomorrow is CBE, and then we end up juggling around to the extent that even the teachers, the education managers get confused about it. I'll also say there was no need to change the structure just because we are talking about CBE. The structure of education is what is now giving us the problem of having to get extra classrooms, equipment, what have you, and there are some classrooms and other facilities in high schools that are idle. So if we are looking at the curriculum, you can change a curriculum without changing the structure.
Sure.
And it works out very well.
Thank you so much.
That's for you, but it's good for all Kenyans.
Sure.
Now, when it comes to the security sector, we are talking about what will need to be done in order to see a properly functioning security infrastructure, security operations in this country. I start off by indicating that even though many people think so much money has been allocated to security, is so inadequate when you consider that security comes first before you consider the stability of other facets, the stability of the economy, stability in funding for that to be done. The government has done very well in providing motor vehicles. It's easy now for police officers to reach out and carry out their function, including the famous Subarus, of course. But what is important is that it's no longer the situation that I saw in 2012 or earlier, when you'll be told we don't have mafuta, we do not have a motor vehicle. Can you hire a matatu so that we carry out this or that? The government has done very well in that regard. But visit a normal police station, and you realize that there is a lot that is missing. We do not have supplies. We do not have paper. We do not have small things of the kind that make it possible for those officers to function. And that is what you really should have given the quality of security, the level at which there will be satisfaction in performance. So I am really saying that this additional sum of money, for example, which is going to the DCI, is justified. You know, cybersecurity today happens to be one of the greatest concerns anywhere in the world. And if we are not cyber secure, I assure you, as a nation, we are in a very, very bad state. So it is justified. But I think that other than that, we should think beyond the hardware when it comes to managing the security and funding it properly. I see police officers often being told, or rather complaining about their pay. The truth is that there is underfunding, and therefore they may not be paid what they want. But also there has been a significant improvement in the pay for police officers. And that's why I was saying that the Maraga task force made good recommendations on the pay for police officers. Nothing very different, but at least it emphasized what we always thought should be the case. So if, for example, we are looking at a sub-county or a county police operation, we should be in a position to start off there and say, what is it that will be required for them to function optimally? And I think that we need to put in a lot more thought than is currently the case.
Okay. I'd like to take a break at this point. We're going to come back and continue with this conversation. We're just looking at budget 2025-2026 and some of the items that we're looking at that receive a lot of attention, education sector, security as well, in the light of what is going on in the country at the moment. Boaz Waroku, who is a strategy advisor with Elimu Bora Working Group, as well as the first chairperson of the Police Service Commission, is Johnson Kavuludi, and we're here this morning talking about some of these issues as we look towards the budget that will be read later on in the day, and then what will essentially become law later on with the Finance Bill, Finance Act. Where are we, and what are some of the things that can be done concerning that? 26 to 9. We continue after this break.
Are we off here?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
Oh, great! This June, the biggest Club World Cup ever held is here. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next high bouquet for 60 days. A competition across the continent. 30 action-packed days of top-notch football from 32 best club teams from around the world. Recharge your subscription today to never miss a moment of a competition like never before. On the move, download StarTimes on and watch every goal, every moment, anytime, anywhere. StarTimes Sports, beyond passion. StarTimes, enjoy digital life.
Provides the inspiration for Leipzig.
This is not an announcement, it's a pact.
To plant trees and protect our environment.
To drive mentorship and education.
To grow businesses with funding and training.
To share with our communities.
Since 2020, we've honored this pact.
As we mark 5 years, we renew it because all impact begins with a pact. I&M Foundation, celebrating 5 years of impact, powered by I&M Bank.
All right, looking at cloudy conditions in most parts of Nairobi today, currently at 15, and it's 15 and sunny in Nakuru with 15 and sunny conditions in Nyeri. It's 15 and sunny into Eldoret, while at 25 Mombasa is sunny, Malindi is sunny at 26, sunny at 21 into Kisumu, while Kakamega is sunny at 20. Kampala sunny at 22 and looking into a sunny Dar es Salaam at 24. Slightly warmer at 4 degrees in Johannesburg, but the sun is up as well. It's mostly sunny at 28 in Mogadishu with 18 and sunny conditions in Addis Ababa, sunny at 25 in Lagos and cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, taking a quick look at things. We are still in traffic hour this morning, and it's coming in heavy on the Thika Superhighway. As you're coming from Survey, Kiambu Road also still has some of that traffic. And look at Juja Road with quite some traffic this morning. It's coming in all the way from the crossover with Juja Road and also coming off of Outer Ring. So that's busy there. And Landy's inbound traffic is quite something. Langata Road, as you go then towards the Nyaya Stadium roundabout, is very, very busy. Some of that will go towards Raila Odinga Way, but the rest of it on the Uhuru Highway as you get out towards Haile Selassie at the junction. We're keeping an eye on all of this and want to keep it moving. Let's talk, and we'll do that on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
22 minutes to the top of the hour. Dennis, you're going to tell us that there's an option when it comes to Father's Day.
Oh, yeah. Father's Day is coming up. And Mr. Kavuludi, you're a father, I know. Mr. Aruk, you're a father.
Almost a grandfather.
Almost a grandfather. And Mr. Kavuludi, almost a grandfather?
No, I'm not almost. I'm a grandfather.
Okay.
Just confirming. Now, how easy is it for someone to shop for you? If I wanted to buy you something, how easy is it? Because on Father's Day, there's the argument, it's either a tie, what else? Socks. I don't know, what else do you get?
It's very difficult for anybody to shop for me. I'll tell you that for sure. One must understand my taste.
Great, fantastic.
Even when it comes to that socks or the tie and so forth, they should be sure they're getting the right colors, the right sizes, and so forth. And maybe that's not the priority.
Oh, there's also the question of priority. What about you, Mr. Aruk?
I prefer doing it myself. But I'll
it's a gift somebody has to do for you.
A gift, I'll also struggle to use it just to show you that I appreciate it.
You appreciate the gift.
I prefer doing it myself.
Well, it's happening on Sunday, so dads can be so hard to shop, that just like you rightly heard, but not this year. We've got the cheat code, and let's make this Father's Day iconic. So Woolworths is giving 30% off men's sleepwear, knitwear, jackets, and coats. But this is until 16th of June. So whether your dad is the stay cozy type or the step out looking sharp kind, you'll find the perfect gift. So let's make this Father's Day extra special and visit your nearest Woolworths store and get him something he'll low-key love and high-key brag about.
There you go. So you see, there's something for everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Do that.
Thanks for thinking about us.
And when you're passionate, if you are, about creating a better future for Kenya, well, the I&M Foundation is also passionate about the same, with a social investment arm of the I&M Bank. For the past 5 years, the bank has been making a real difference, and they've invested 2% of the annual profit, and that's the highest commitment in the Kenyan banking sector, and this is towards impactful programs through the foundation. So the work is focused on vital areas like education and skills development, economic empowerment, and enabling giving. So today the focus is on the environmental conservation. The I&M Foundation is dedicated to protecting natural precious resources through strategic partnerships and community-driven initiatives, ensuring a sustainable future for all. They believe in impact, and it's through focused action. As we renew the pact to keep impacting, learn more about I&M Foundation's vital work and how you can potentially collaborate by visiting imbankgroup.com/foundation to learn more. And this is powered by I&M Bank. We continue into our conversations even after we do that, and today is budget day. And in about 6 or so hours, the budget will be read. It's significant because we are looking at the blueprint for which Kenya will spend its money from wherever it gets it in the next 1 year, whereby we see that there are issues upon which Kenya's money is necessary to be spent. Sometimes we ask the questions about whether the priorities are actually right. With a big budget of 656 billion in this year that's ending for education, Boaz, we are seeing that there will be a cut. So that takes us to about 500, already brings us down to about, give or take 595 billion. So that would be the cut that we see. However, even within that, we've seen that the money that would have been allocated towards education, remember that you make the budget, you have the finance bill, which becomes the Finance Act, and then you have appropriations. Yes. That is essentially where you are saying, this is where you're going to get the money from. Sure. This is where it's going to come from. So this goes according to the budget. So there would be no reason why you wouldn't spend the money for the things that you said you were going to, especially when you have an appropriations bill, which then comes into place. So with education now being defunded, because that's what's happening in this budget this year.
Thank you for using that.
Yeah. How will we achieve the things that need to be achieved, especially when we have new reforms. There was a party that went around for a year.
Yes.
And these are the reforms that we're talking about across basic education, primary education, secondary education, tertiary through towards the university level and beyond.
Yes.
How then, if you defund it in this budget, do you expect to bring about the reforms and to bring about the developments that we see? For example, we are going into STEM pathways, we are going into humanities pathways and other pathways from 2026. How will these things happen with the defunding of this sector?
Thank you. And I'm happy that you're the one who's introduced the term defunding. As a Limubora, we have used it. Anytime we use it, people think we are enemies of the state. We are not. So I'll use it more effectively. But allow me just to step back first and also indicate that Kenyans should understand that the budget-making process is their process. This is the time when they, as the owners of the resources, are actually telling you, you are like the employers, just take your home state. These are the resources I have. I want my security people to do this. I want the gardener to do this. I want this to do this. They are not the ones to tell you that we want this money for ourselves. No. So turn it upside down, because that is what our Constitution 2010 did. So this process of budget making, of course, it is not a one-day kind of thing, the way it used to happen in those periods. But it takes quite a lot of time and the process, up to and including the time when the government comes or the executive comes to Parliament and presents, that's the Treasury, let me just call it, not the executive, but the Treasury, presents the budget policy statement, the BPS. Because at that particular moment, then you should have been knowing these are the priorities that we hope will be funded in the financial year we are anticipating. That budget policy statement was tabled in January. We interacted with it, though even before we had been interacting with the issues in education. And indeed, we made a memoranda. We presented a memoranda and suggested what we considered should have been considered as the priority. First, the fact that when such statements come, they start telling you, education, you already have the lion's share.
Yes.
I think that should be disabused, because education must always have the biggest share. Because education is everything for a country like ours. Education reaches the doorsteps of almost every household you have. You have learners there, you have teachers there, you have everybody in there. So we should not be talking about it as a lion's share. In fact, according to the international standards, we know that the benchmark that UNESCO, for instance, says that when you have that huge budget, the national budget as it is, then not less than 20% of that budget should go to education. That is a benchmark which Kenya has agreed to. There are those who have tabulated this budget and are indicating that it is beyond that. Our tabulation gives us 17.1%.
Okay.
Meaning that we are still falling short. So that, I'm just trying to say, then we can now not be saying that it is a huge, meaning our parliamentarians should have an opportunity then to readdress the areas we are talking about. If we give them that kind of a background, they'll be able to understand that still education requires more. And education requires more, particularly when we do cost analysis. You start from the very basic level, from the very basic level, PP1, for instance, as of now, PP1, PP2. How much does it cost to educate a young one or to take a young one through that process? Because there are many things that happen there. The Munavu report that I was talking about, Munavu was given them 1,040 per year, per child per year. And of course, you know that cannot be adequate.
It's not even peanuts.
But it is also not what is being used, because again, in the budget, it is assumed that is a category that then the county governments will be dealing with. Munavu also recommended that from the budget allocation or the indication, the formula they were using of giving a child at the primary school level, it was 1,450 shillings per year, per child per year. Munavu recommended that you almost double that, because it took it to 2,240. Those formulas have not been used, because if you are to use those, at least those provisions, and you do computation, you'll realize that the math is not mathing or is not adding. So without getting to the details, we are simply asking our parliamentarians that let them not look at this as the end of the budget process. They can still do a lot. They can get to the nitty-gritties and give our teachers and those who are implementing education in this country an easier time. And by the way, those implementing education, we are talking of public education sector. So they should not do the kind of maths that we have seen in that budget. For instance, there's a component on school meals. In the budget, the financial year ending 30th of June, they had allocated 3.6 billion, which was raised through the budget adjustments that was done to 3.9 billion. But in the current budget, they have defunded that to 3 billion.
Okay.
But the math they are doing is also the math that doesn't add up. Because the target of the children who to be fed in the year that is coming to an end, it was 2.6 million children. Of course, that is a very small percentage. But now they want 2.8 million children to be fed when the budget has been cut. You know, those are the things we are asking. Who is doing this math? Or maybe Mwalimu, you could help us. So who is doing the math? We are saying the math is not adding up. And that is not helpful. I think math should be made compulsory throughout. Maybe that is why we still continue.
Maybe that's why we have a problem.
Yes, that's why we must continue, because that will help us get some of these facts right. But I'm using those examples simply to tell our parliamentarians, because I know now the ball is in their court. Whatever we are dealing with here, the public also should know. We've already indicated the public, this budget is their process. It is not that your employee is telling you what you're telling them to do. They don't want to do it. No, who are they to tell you so? You are the ones who know that we need our children in school, and they need to be supported. They need to be provided for those who are accessing the school meals. And indeed, if you are to go by on the school meals, let's go by the statement by the president that he is looking forward to a period when we are going to reach the 10 million learners at the basic education level with the school meals. But you are going backwards. So those are things that you should be consistent. Sorry, Dennis, I think you have a question.
I was just trying to tie in what you are talking about now the security question. Okay. We're looking at a budget of policing services 1.8 billion. So there's an increase there. We are seeing defense 13 billion. But you're looking at, for example, IPOA. We earlier spoke about IPOA and the issue of defunding and, asking for more money to be empowered to execute their mandate. IPOA is the principal civilian police oversight body in Kenya. They're asking for money and they need a lot of help. But then there's also the question of, and this is just still on security, it's sort of like whispers around, funding that goes into intelligence, spending, with minimal transparency. And there's also this question of how do we strike then the balance between national security and public accountability? That is one. Two is we've looked at police reforms and how they've stalled and, backtracking and all that. Yet we continue seeing this brutality, extrajudicial killings, they continue. How has the budget provided funding or direction for oversight and accountability? Yes, you're getting this money, but also there's need to have oversight and account for that money.
Accountability has always been the issue when it comes to security. And a lot of people have felt, including myself, that accountability in security has been shrouded in mystery. It is as if when you say so much money is being spent in the following manner by NIS, then you are exposing NIS to the extent that they remain naked. I think in a proper society, a modern society, a society that is open, there is need for accountability to the level where anybody should be able to have an insight into and even question what is going to NIS. What exactly is it going to do? Because we have had in the past, and I still believe that could be the case in the future, where even now, money could probably be allocated to the NIS, and yet it is not intended for NIS. It is intended to carry out something else. But because NIS is not exposed to so much public scrutiny, put the money there. And I'll not be surprised, for example, if anybody was to say that what we are seeing going around now called empowerment programs is part of that, because nobody has told us where that empowerment, cash is coming from. We just see it flowing, and it doesn't really make a good impression of good accountability. But back to IPOA. If indeed we are looking up to a police service that is accountable, that is transparent, a police service that can be trusted by Kenyans, then IPOA certainly needs the money that they are asking for. We know one thing is that IPOA is decentralized. Apart from their offices within the city, they are all over. They are in the counties. Perhaps that is what should also be happening to the National Police Service Commission in terms of the human capital management. Because right now we have got police officers who have to come all the way from the counties in order to solve simple problems related to, to personal issues that could have been solved at the lower level. So I am saying that this 1.8 billion, much as it appears to be quite a big sum of money, it is the extent to which it is targeted towards performing very specific, accountable functions. We would like to see a situation in which, for example, the forensic laboratory for the IPOA is funded. They were talking about having to get what they need going to either the DCI, which means the independence is gone, or going to other institutions where, who have got these forensic laboratories. We are talking about the counseling services that should go to the police officers. Because some of these police officers who go through very traumatizing undertakings need that counseling outfit, which I understand is not funded at all. When we talk about the housing, let it not just be police officers. Now, how can I get better housing? Can we give them an opportunity to even hire houses within areas where the rest of the population stays? In fact, we will be safer staying next to a police officer rather than being concentrated in camps. That is the case that happens throughout the world. And therefore, if we are talking about engagement in budget making for police officers or for the police service or for security, just like is the case in education, involve everybody from the beginning so that it's not coming from the top downwards. The same thing we are saying, the question is, who is informing this budget?
These decisions, yeah.
I hope that it is not the people who are called advisors, because I understand there are quite many of them today.
About 26, yes.
During my time, the advisors to the minister were within the ministry. Yes, we had the director, the deputy directors, we had all those people. They're the ones who understood what it is that goes on in that ministry. Why will you pluck somebody from elsewhere and plant him there and say, this is my advisor? What do they know beyond what the director and the rest of the professional staff know? anyway, is their policy. But you see, this is where part of that money could be ending up. And I'm not too sure if that is good accountability.
There's 2 billion shillings allocated for the presidential advisors, just from the budget.
This budget that will be read this afternoon, we see that perhaps that's where that some of that money will actually be going. Running down towards the end of this conversation, but what we've been able to do is been able to point out where the critical matters are arising, and unfortunately, those resources are not following those critical matters. And if it's any indication from these two big issues, then is there cause for worry or cause for concern? Very quickly from both of you.
There is, and indeed, if they're talking of, if we wanted to bridge the gap, and they're saying that the money we are talking about is not necessarily enough, the areas that we could actually remove money from, Mr. Kavuludi is very clear. I think as a Limubora, we are saying a lot of money is going to the NIS, and we don't know what they do. Of course, that is a serious concern, because they are getting much more money than even the judiciary, if you are to look at it. So some money is being hidden there when we require money in education. The elements, I think, we have a list of almost 20 areas that we should slash part of the money to bring to education, including the many advisors that we have, not just at the presidential level, but even at the CS level, because how do you hire an advisor to advise the advisor who advises the CS, who is the advisor to the president? And we just try to create layers and people just to be seen to be busy. In fact, they are the people who are confusing most of the sector operations, particularly in education. Because in education, you'll never be hired if you don't have the right papers. And of course, I hope with the quality standards and all that, the wrong papers would also be addressed. Right. So we hope that by unnecessarily lumping certain monies there, just bring those monies to education. Let us do a clean job in education, and we'll be able to address most of the problems.
These issues.
Tertiary, we cannot stop without addressing how the lecturers had been promised a lot of the funds. The CBA that is coming to an end, they have a deficit of 8.8 billion that should have been allocated. It is not there. We are going to see industrial action from the WASUs and all that.
That could be expected in the next year.
That should be expected if we are not budgeting for them. But we had committed that would be provided for. So
Indeed.
Those are the hiccups that we see in this budget process. Thank you.
Critical conversations that we had this morning. I want to thank both of you for being here with us this morning. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we then actually hear in concrete what these estimates will be. Boaz Waroko is strategy advisor, Elimu Bora working group, and we've also spoken this morning with Johnston Kalvudi about a lot of these issues, and thank you so much for being here. First chairperson of the National Police Service Commission, Asante Sana, to you both. Good morning at 9:01.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Lea Ubaga. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and the IPOA Chairman Isaac Hassan have been summoned to appear before the National Assembly Committee this morning. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, directed its committee to present a preliminary report on the death of Albert Ojwang, a young man from Homa Bay County who allegedly died in police custody. The Speaker gave the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security until 2:30 p.m. this afternoon to brief the House and the nation on the status of investigations. Wetangula acknowledged the strong views shared by many MPs and promised them a chance to speak after the report is presented. And still in matters of another case where police are involved, the autopsy of Daniel Nderitu, a Nakuru resident who was allegedly shot by police officers in the London area of Nakuru West moments after a confrontation between police and residents ensued, is expected today to ascertain the cause of death. His family has come forward to condemn what they call an unjust killing of their loved one. Preparations for for the burial of the 47-year-old are underway at his home in London, even as he leaves behind a grieving family and 4 young children. 4 witnesses have since recorded statements with the Independent Policing Oversight Authority as the family seeks answers and accountability over the events that led to Nderitu's death. Detectives from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will today present 5 individuals, including employees and former staff of key public institutions, before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court for use of forged academic documents in the public service. EACC CEO Abdi Mohammed said the arrests followed investigations into reports received from the public and various institutions, with suspects accused of using falsified qualifications to secure employment and promotions, resulting in the loss of tens of millions. The suspects are drawn from the IBC, KMTC, Kenya Rural Roads Authority, that is KERA, NSDCC, and Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company. The suspects are Priska Osotsi, an assistant election officer at IBC, former KERA Deputy Director of Supply Chain Management Margaret Wanja, Vincent Tom Kemoli, assistant at the NSDCC, Kelly Gishuri Mwiruri, driver at NCWSC, and Elijah Mudhoga, former driver at KMTC. Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale will this morning flag off a 6.2 million consignment of BCG and polio vaccines to counties to boost routine immunization. Medical Services Principal Secretary Dr. Okoh Luga officially received the consignment last evening at JKIA, which included 3.2 million doses of oral polio vaccine and 3 million doses of BCG vaccination. The vaccines will be distributed immediately to the country's 9 central depots today, followed by delivery to health facilities in all 47 counties. And finally, the judiciary is still gathering Kenyans' opinions on the proposed laws on land and environmental disputes. Speaking to journalists in Bungoma, Judiciary's Committee's Laws Secretary Vincent Chemitei said the move aims to develop a suitable law to resolve the disputes. He also said that Kenyans' opinions will surely be included in the final phase of the law.
Haja yetu kuu kuja hapa ni kuleta sheria ambayo inatengenezwa ya mashamba na mazingira, ambayo hiyo koti haijakuwa na sheria tangu ile act ya 19 of 2011 kutengenezwa. Sasa subject your rules kwa wananchi, watuambie wanatakaje kwa hizi rules, wanataka irekebishe wapi na wapi. Yenye tuko naye ni inaitwa kwa Kiingereza zero draft, and we want that watu wananchi watoe maoni yao.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The finance bill, the budget estimates, the budget speech.
If there are no more taxations, there are no more taxations. Let us not import things into the finance bill that does not exist.
No doubt, you have heard it all. The 2025-2026 budget is supposed to be a bold step towards economic growth and stability, focusing heavily on job creation, infrastructure, healthcare, and education. But is this really the case? At 4.24 trillion Kenya shillings, this budget is the largest ever in Kenya's history.
Let the right things be given the right priority.
Join us as we break down the winners and the losers in the budget this year. Right here on KTN and on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human, everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, let's take a look at what's happening with traffic this morning. Haven't been doing too badly. Just looking at a little bit of that still left on the Thika Superhighway as you come into the city. Also, as you get onto Muranga Road, I think we're doing okay. Just that little slip road coming in from Kipande, that's where you have some traffic. Coming in on Limuru Road today is also, we're probably looking at the last of it. Peponi Road then out towards Parklands, also some traffic there as well. James Gishuru, we're going through the last bits of traffic as you cross over Waiaki Way. And Mombasa Road has not done too poorly. We're going to keep an eye on all of this. And also, as you come in on the North Airport Road from the Eastern Bypass, we're doing okay. Just keep an eye on things and we'll keep it moving. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 10 minutes after 9 o'clock on this 12th day of June 2025. The Situation Room in its final hour on this day, which is the second Thursday in June, where the budget is being read this afternoon. And this forms the basis for conversations that we have today. The Situation Room, where we talk about a lot of these issues, and we're then going to go into the agriculture and health sector, and we're looking at the budget 2025 and what this all has in store. We'll talk to two of our guests who are here. John Kamau is the forensics lead with for Eastern Africa at PwC, and he's here this morning, and we're going to be giving some insights around agriculture and what the budget says. Good morning to you, John.
Morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good to have you here. And then also, we're going to be looking into the health sector. It's taken a number of hits through the year. And as we get into the year 2025, 2026, the questions surround then will we see a buffering for health? Surprise, surprise. Yet another Dennis is here with us this morning. Dr. Dennis Miskela is the Deputy Secretary General of the KMPDU, and he joins us as well this hour. Good morning, Dr. Ari.
Good morning.
You well?
Only smart people grace the Situation Room.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
Yes. And if you were three, I don't even know what I've done, but okay.
Dennis the Menace.
It would have been D-O, D-A, D-M.
D-O, D-A, D-M. That's what it would have been at this point. We didn't plan it, I promise. So, look, we're getting into conversations around the budget, of course, but let's just, I want to hear interpretation about certain things, as we do. John, we will welcome you and we want to hear interpretation on today's proverb. We're in Uganda this week. Every week we go to a different African country, and we glean proverbs that the Wahenga of those areas usually live by, and we want to hear your interpretation of this proverb today. And here it is. When we talk about the hen who stays in the house,
yes,
will never get food. Shall I say that again?
No, I think I got
the hen that stays at home, rather, does not find food.
You'll never get food. No, I suppose it's similar to the one that says those that don't travel. If you never travel, you think your mom is the best cook.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I would interpret it in terms of you need to go out there, know what's happening and make a living. Otherwise, if you stay at home, you'll die of hunger.
Okay, Dr. Miskela.
Yes. I think it just means that in everything you have to really go out there and look for it. A rolling stone gathers no moss.
Exactly. You have to keep it moving. That is for sure. All right. So through the year, we've been looking at many things. We've got, and I often say that one of the sectors that we're talking about this morning, both of these sectors that we're talking about this morning, one of them being agriculture. Agriculture takes on this huge responsibility as being the number one marker for the driver of the economy, and has been said that it's the donkey of the economy, because we take everything and we put it on its shoulders. But then the question is, are we feeding it? Are we feeding the sector and giving it what it needs to then be able to deliver this position that garners? So we'll be going into some of that this morning, looking at the numbers already that have been crunched. And then also when we look at health, again, one of the things that you must do to ensure, because who are you governing if you have a sick society? Who are you governing if some of these policies that you put in place then don't go towards essentially healing the nation, right? So let's take an overview, and we start with agriculture, and of course coming in and saying, how are we plugging in? Is it something to look forward to when we talk about this one sector that holds this huge responsibility, and the budget numbers that will be read this afternoon? Are we then buffering this sector and this industry in the way in which Kenya ought to?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
And this is not unique to Kenya. It's actually an Africa-wide problem. And it's a massive problem if you think about Africa, our population currently, and where we are likely to be in the next few years. So Kenya, for instance, we have a population of 53 million. We'll get to about 92 million by 2050. That's an addition of 40 million people. Currently, about a third of Kenyans are food insecure. So we already have a problem. The challenge is that the funding typically that goes to agriculture every year is in the region of 2%, at best 3%. Similarly, this time around, so you'd have an odd 80-something billion from the national government. The county governments will typically give 5 to 6% of their budgets to agriculture. So if you take the 400 going to county governments, 5% will be about 20. So you have about 100 billion going into agriculture out of a budget of 4 trillion. So that's 2.5%. In the last more than 20 years, Africa has made various declarations, starting with Maputo, I think around 2003, Malabo 10 years later, Kampala last year. And in all those declarations, the target is to get to 10% funding to agriculture. So ideally, we should be speaking about 400 billion. So we are barely giving a quarter of what agriculture deserves. If you then consider that agriculture makes up almost a third of our GDP, employs 70% of the rural population, then it's clearly underfunded.
Okay. That's for an overview. We'll come into and look into the nitty-gritty of it, because then, okay, are we seeing the same thing replicated across the health sector, Dr. Miskela? Because we've been through year upon year of CBAs not met. We are right now dealing with an issue whereby UHC workers are on strike. We are also saying clinical officers, nurses, medical doctors also at the same point saying, you know what, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then we get to a place where we're not able to activate. This all is around budgets. This is all around money spent. Do we see that coming into the year? Health, again, if we just look at that 15%, the 15%, is a number that Kenya has not been able to reach in a while, and we're going to see those numbers read this afternoon. Do you expect that we'll see an increase?
Thank you very much. First of all, I have to really feel sorry in some sort with the government, because we are asking of so much in a very, very shrinking tax collection, because the citizens are very keen that they don't want any more taxations, and the debt should be paid. So whatever is left of to sort out some of these things may not be adequate, but nonetheless we expect certain things to happen. That said, I have to say that I'm really disappointed with the budget estimates that I've been able to look at, especially on healthcare. As healthcare workers, we've been very happy that health has been a critical agenda for this government, and I think there's no single political or meeting where the president and his team doesn't talk about UHC, the Taifa Care and all that. But now the part for walking the talk is where the challenge is. And I have to give an example. If you look at the sector allocations, health comes at a distant sixth, long after education has gotten there, 630 billion, long after energy, ICT infrastructure, long after public administration and the defense force and all that. So then the question begs in that, where do we lay our emphasis? Because more than ever, COVID taught us that health is everything. Even if you give 630 billion to education and there's sick teachers, they won't be coming. The teachers have complained about their medical covers. They have a very pathetic cover. And you're not working towards sorting out that. Those sick children won't go to school. The sick policemen won't go anywhere. In the long run, you end up with a dead professor because you have a failing healthcare system. And that's why we must walk the talk. We talk about the funding of healthcare. There's nothing like free healthcare. We keep on telling people about UHC, free, blah. There's nothing like free healthcare. Healthcare must be funded by somebody. And with a 31 billion gap from the USAID pullout, then you wonder why you only increased healthcare budget by a measly 1 billion. And look at, for example, the SHA. SHA, I keep on saying that had three funds. Only one is the contributory scheme, the shift part of it. The other two schemes, the private healthcare fund and the emergency fund, they are exchequer funds that should be allocated money. But look at what the SHA asked for 61 billion for the primary healthcare fund. They got 13 billion. They asked for almost 144 billion for the emergency chronic and critical illness fund. They only got a measly 10 billion. So this means that Kenyans will still have to dig deeper in their pockets to be able to access quality and affordable healthcare in this country.
Should we be looking at a budget essentially that takes care of all of these needs? Isn't that what you would imagine, that this is the money that you have and that you want to split it across sectors, John, and then you say, well, based on that, this is what the need is, we're then going to allocate fund according to that need. That it would appear to me that that's what it should do. Do we then see the counter happening with the budget estimates so far that we've seen?
Okay, thanks. I wouldn't say it's a counter. I don't imagine that anyone in government deliberately wants to not fund agriculture or health. It's a question of we don't have enough funds.
Is it?
One. Two, it's a question of how we use the little funds that we have. And I mean, if you think about it, and I mean, as you introduced me, I'm in forensics, so you might wonder, why am I speaking about agriculture or even health for that matter? But it's because in our conversations and in what we see, there's scope for us, to earn more if, for instance, we plug the leakages in terms of revenue collections, for instance. Two, in terms of the little that we have, we could apply it better, because we are talking about underfunding in the budget, but there's an maybe even greater question. Even those funds that have been allocated and are available, how much of it actually gets to do what it's meant to be doing? And because if that was happening, if all the money that is meant for agriculture, for instance, all the money that is meant for governance is used and used effectively, we would then generate more as a country. So for instance, as agriculture, if it accounts for 33% of our GDP, if we were to double the output from agriculture, it means our revenues could double almost. And then also, you have an entire value chain that depends on agriculture. If you're producing more, you will have people buying more inputs, you will have more manufacturing companies that rely on agriculture. So if you sort the problem and you have the right amount of resources being used effectively, then you get to grow the pot. So then there's more money available from government to allocate to not just agriculture and healthcare, but across. But the other thing is, especially in agriculture, but also in healthcare, government acts more as a catalyst. We don't expect government to fund agriculture in its entirety. A lot of agriculture funding comes from private sectors. You and me who are what are we, online farmers, everybody that puts in some money into their shamba, the agro-processors, if you are Mumia's Sugar, for instance, you are funding contracted farmers, lenders, banks. So if the right infrastructure is there, the government funding will only be a catalyst, and then you'll get funding from the private sector especially, but also donor funding and all. So there is, we need to get more money so that everybody then can get what they need, and then everything then works because you have more and then more to share.
You've talked about amounts and resources being used effectively. My question is, looking at the current budget and previous budgets, fraud and wastage always continue plaguing key sectors when it comes to budgetary allocations and provisions.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, do you think are areas that are leaks that we need to sort of seal? Because you have different allocations, but then because of the wastage, you end up having a lot of leaks here and there. What, in your opinion, do you think are the leaks, and how do we seal them?
And that's a $1 million question. And unfortunately, it's almost easier to ask, where do we not have leakages? Because I feel we have a cultural problem. And this is not just in the public sector, because a lot of time when we speak about corruption and leakages, people think of government and the public sector. But if you consider, for instance, what happened, say, with Equity Bank the other day, and listening to their group CEO around the number of people implicated in whatever process that they're undertaking, and some of the other things we hear even from the private sector, you start to get and we do a lot of work in forensics, so we have a good sense. So there's a lot of leakage both in the private and in the public sector. And it's a cultural issue. It's a question of values. It's a question of ethics. And I think we all know that that's a challenge, and we need to start working on it. But also another fundamental question is we never really measure how much we lose and where we lose it. So we then keep on putting in money without necessarily knowing where we are leaking this money. There's a story I heard not too long ago. I think it was from an Indian, someone from India who was giving an analogy and comparing a farmer in India and a farmer, I think, in Denmark at the time. And they were saying, I don't know how true it is, that in Denmark, if you're a farmer, a dairy farmer, you go, you milk your cows, you put your milk in a dispenser somewhere. A customer who wants the milk will come, dispense the right amount of milk that they need, leave the money that is commensurate with whatever milk they've taken. So the only cost you incur as the farmer in selling that milk is just putting the milk in the dispenser. So the customer then actually only pays for the milk. Now, in the example they were giving, I believe it was India, it could be a different country, and you can use it in Kenya. Because you can't trust that your customer will come and just dispense the right amount of milk, then you have to employ a guard to check, to make sure that nobody is taking more than they are paying for. Then you need to employ an accountant to count the money. You need to get an auditor. You need to get a fence. So ultimately, when the customer pays for the milk, they pay for much more than just the milk. So if you are to ask what is the cost, what is the value of corruption in that case, or lack of ethics, it's a lot, which we never really get to measure. So there are those obvious leakages where money just doesn't go where it's meant to. But then there are all these other things that for instance, increase administrative costs. And you will see a lot of budget allocations, for instance, go to administration. Whereas in an ideal situation, they should actually go to dealing with the real issue.
Dennis, I have a question for you. Yesterday we had MP Githunguri here breaking down the finance bill, and we were looking at the whole idea of what is hidden in this year's budget in the name of, fine, we're not slapping taxes on you, so that's what Kenyans want to hear, no more taxes. But there are a lot of things that are hidden behind what has been proposed. What, if you look at taxation on essential health items. You look at proposed VAT changes that affect the cost of critical health supplies and medicine, for example. What do you see happening in terms of the effect on patient care and hospital operations, and also looking at the affordability of medicine for the Mamamboga, the Otieno, the Wanjiko, the Nyambura, the Okari?
Yeah, as I keep on saying that somebody must pay for healthcare. And healthcare, you can either fund it from people's pockets, where the poor have to sell their cattle and land to afford healthcare, or you can do it through insurance. So there's a social insurance scheme or a private insurance scheme, or through donor funding and grants, or through taxes. I think the biggest challenge that we're having in financing our healthcare is that we, as government people, we have refused to accept that health is a social responsibility of any nation. Just the way you plan for education and the security, you should plan for healthcare. You don't hear them saying that we're going to have a mchango for education or a mchango for hiring police. They are allocated from the taxes. And we have always repeated that the funding of healthcare must be tax-based. In a country where 80% of people are informally employed, you cannot then come tell us that a social scheme, which you cannot enforce the Juakali people to pay, is how you want to fund your healthcare. So then you ask yourself that, then why is healthcare so expensive? They'll always tell you that it is expensive because you have to pay doctors so much, recurrent expenditure. But the truth of the matter is that we have done a research and we found that the biggest driver of healthcare cost is the price of drugs and equipment and the technology. And why is the price up? Because of the taxes. Yeah, it makes no sense to increase taxes on things like essential drugs or on medical equipment. Yeah, some of the people who went to set up hospitals, they tell you that the biggest struggle they have is around taxations of those. So do you waive or just remove some of those taxes to bring the cost of healthcare down? The thing I tried to say is that all is not lost in the current budget on some of the issues, because under UHC and the pillars of UHC, after you have built the hospital and equipped it and brought drugs, I see they allocated money for cancer. We are, as a country, we have met the requirement of facilities per population ratio, because within 5 kilometers you can get a health facility.
Yes.
Yeah. We are doing these funding reforms around SHA and the digital health. The part that has always struggled for the longest of times is the human resources. You see the strikes and the upheavals all over the place. And this because two things. One is that we still approach healthcare from the recurrent expenditure side of things, that you will tell the county that don't go beyond 35% of your budget on recurrent expenditure. But if you look at it, healthcare is an investment. Yeah, because all these are people who are out there doing these things must first of all be healthy before they do that. So if we just consider health as an investment, then we'll be able to remove and that it's from that whole Public Finance Act which talks about the 35% ceiling. That's one. Two is that in this budget you can see that they have allocated money for the interns. You know that the internship issue was a very big thing for us, and their salaries and the money have been allocated for them to be paid as per the agreement. The UHC people have been out here for months on end about fighting for their absorption to permanent and pensionable, and they've allocated money for that. So that will go a long way to sort this. They've allocated money for hiring healthcare workers, which is a good thing. With the KMPD talked about the areas that were owed to them for the last 7 years. They've allocated money. So I know for sure that if we are able to then also challenge the county, there's something good that's happened in this country that people don't talk about, that the Facility Improvement Fund Act that says that money collected in a facility must remain in the facility. Yeah, there's no way you're going to tell me that there are no drugs when a drug was brought. If the drug ran out, means that somebody paid for it. So right now most counties are able to collect within themselves instead of the money being collected in the facility and given to the government to take to MCAs to Zanzibar, that money is right now retained in that facility to buy the drugs, to buy the food, to hire more workers, to clean the hospitals. So that's a good thing. That in facility source of revenue is a very, very big thing. But my challenge to the government that healthcare is almost 95% involved. Why are we still having billions stuck in Nairobi? Yeah? Why are we still having 137 billion plus? I was talking to my friend John and he was saying that is almost 200 billion stuck in Nairobi. Why can't we let the function and funds to flow?
When we look at these numbers, and I would like us to take a break, but just from what you're saying now, these issues essentially is what should form the decisions when by the number crunching starts in September for any budget process, right? End of August going into September. That these things that we see playing out, we know, for example, you have a footprint, for example, of where in the country people get sick with certain issues. We know that. We know what medical equipment is needed. We know what research is needed for these things to happen. People do this work every day. You know, for example, in the agriculture sector, that this is what happens, this is what is needed. If you look into the region, who is doing better when it comes to farm inputs? That we've removed import duty on agricultural products that are coming in from Uganda and Tanzania, but then you've increased the duty on farm inputs for Kenya, for farmers in Kenya. So what forms the decisions as to then where you will put the money if you can see the realities on the ground? Dr. Miskela and folks who are every day telling us about this is what we actually need to look to. If we talk about preventative care, for example, it should then form the basis of how we spend money in the future. Do we see a symbiotic relationship between the information we have? We don't have to look for it. It's right there. And then the decisions that are being made as to where the money will come from. Do you see that manifestation? Yes,
and I think the government clearly also sees it and is moving in the right direction. So, for instance, we are moving towards zero-based budgeting as opposed to incremental budgeting, where incrementally you just say last year we allocated X to agriculture, therefore we'll do X plus 5%. So we are moving to zero-based budgeting, where ideally, in the ideal situation, you should then go and ask yourself, you have zero money. What do you need to do, and how much does that cost you? And then we're also moving towards a hard ceiling sector budget, where we say for agriculture you can only spend up to X, or for defense. So in an ideal situation, or once this is implemented properly, then we should get to a point where the budget is actually reflective of the needs and the actual costs on the ground. I guess because it's still early days, we are probably still learning. Hopefully, we get to implement it and get to that point where we are actually getting it right. And unfortunately, I think our issue is usually not in policy making or in coming up with the laws. It's in the effectiveness of implementation. So hopefully then we get it right. But we are moving in the right direction. Okay.
Let's take a break at this point where, you're getting to the place where Father's Day is coming up. And Dennis, you're going to tell us what we can do for dads.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting being a dad, first of all. But more importantly, it's always exciting when you get a gift. And Father's Day is coming up this Sunday. And we all know that fatherhood is a journey. It's a journey of strength, it's a journey of wisdom, it's a journey that is what I would call quiet sacrifice. And here, in the Station Room, we often talk about making meaningful choices. So this Father's Day, with Woolworths, here's one. Give dad a reason to smile. Give dad a reason to relax, and maybe even show off a little. So let's show our appreciation with a gift that speaks style and speaks substance. So Woolworths is offering 30% off men's sleepwear, knitwear, jackets and coats until the 16th of June. Perfect for the dad who enjoys comfort, quality and a little flair, of course. So whether it's a quiet night in or stylish evening with family, this is your chance to say thank you to daddy. With quality, he will feel something worthy of the man who's always been there. So visit your nearest Woolworths store today and shop in store.
Indeed, and if you're passionate about creating a better future for Kenya, there's also somebody else who is. I&M Bank Foundation is the social investment arm of the I&M Bank. So it's I&M Foundation, which is the social investment arm of I&M Bank Kenya, have been putting together 2% of profits every year for the last 5 years towards the Kenyan impactful program sector. Their work focuses on vital areas from education and skills development to economic empowerment, as well as enabling giving. But today we focus on environmental conservation. The foundation is dedicated to protecting precious natural heritage through strategic partnerships and community-driven initiatives. It's all about impact, and as we renew the pact to keep on impacting, learn more about the I&M Foundation's vital work and how you can potentially collaborate by visiting imbankgroup.com/foundation to learn more. Powered by I&M Bank.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Are you passionate about creating a better future for Kenya? So is the I&M Foundation, the social investment arm of I&M Bank. For the past 5 years, they've invested 2% of the bank's annual profit, the highest in Kenya's banking sector, into life-changing programs from education and empowerment to protecting our environment. The I&M Foundation is driving real impact. I&M Foundation, impacting lives, shaping a suitable future, powered by I&M Bank.
This June on Next Superstar, the pressure is on. The search for Africa's next hitmaker just got fiercer. Don't miss a moment. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next high bouquet for 60 days. It's vocal battles, show-stopping performances, and edge-of-your-seat showdowns. Who will judges Motive, Size 8, and King Kaka choose to move on to the next round? You can also buy a DTT StarTimes decoder at our business halls countrywide. Dial *858# for self-service or call our customer care on 0730-710077. Offer starts June 13th to August 16th, 2025. Terms and conditions apply. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 17 degrees, and it is 18 and sunny in Nakuru with 17 and sunny conditions in Nyeri. 19 and sunny into Eldoret, while Mombasa is sunny at 27. Malindi at 27 is sunny. Sunny at 24 into Kisumu, while Kakamega at 22 is sunny. Rather sunny conditions at 24 into Kampala, while in Dar es Salaam at 25 the sun is up. It's warming up slowly into Johannesburg at 6 degrees, and into Mogadishu at 27, cloudy conditions, where it's sunny at 20 in Addis Ababa. There's a haze over Lagos skies at 26, while it's cloudy at 25 in Kinshasa. 34 and rising into Beijing Thursday afternoon. At 19, Paris is partly sunny, and 17 it is sunny in London. 22 and clear in New York. Still Wednesday night coming into Thursday, highs of 33 and lows of 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
We're coming out of traffic hour according to the clock, and just looking at the roads as well, just a little bit of it left here and there. We're seeing some traffic right around that Likoni interchange, crossing over Enterprise Road, so that will continue for some time. Also some traffic that comes off Langata Road and heading on towards Aerodrome, and that's just around Douglas Wakihuri Road, and that's touching a little bit on Bunyala, then getting towards Uhuru Highway. So that's the busiest that we'll see right about now coming out of traffic hour. We've done well this Thursday. Keep it so. Let's talk Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
That's it.
Mornings done right.
Our conversations continue this hour. We're looking into budget 2025-2026. That's going to be read in a few hours from now. And as we continue having this conversation with John Kamau, Forensics Lead Eastern Africa with PwC, and Dr. Dennis Miskela, the Deputy Secretary General of the KMPDU. And we're asking ourselves questions, of course, around budget and what would be necessary. Do we see that even as those numbers are read, that we will see an exact representation of the need? Because the situation, Dr. Miskela, when we see that strikes have been happening year on year, complaints have been made county to county, research questions about health have come into place, treaties or pacts that have been ratified by Kenya have been put into place. But do we see that maybe we're getting to a place where, John is a little bit optimistic that we will actually now start to see those agitations come to fruition?
I believe that there are better days ahead, especially now, like in healthcare. We have the Digital Health Agency and the Digital Superhighway, where we are going for the first time to be able to collect real-time data. We have really struggled with getting data in healthcare and having that data to inform decision-making. The world right now is a world where decision is backed up by facts. And being able to understand, for example, it sometimes is heartbreaking when you hear that there are expiring drugs in camps or in facilities. Means that somebody must have overprocured or procured the wrong things. Why do you take malaria drugs in their thousands to Embu when you know that Kisumu people probably need it more?
Yeah.
You get that? So what Digital Health Agency and the Superhighway is doing, that we are going to be able to back up with facts when we tell KEMSA procure this more, buy this less, when we justify why we need to hire more healthcare workers and for what. Because I happen to have sat in the Presidential Task Force for Healthcare Reforms, and even just getting data of healthcare workers in this country was not possible. This issue around internship was simply because somebody did not know the numbers that are going to be coming out last year. So they found themselves having budgeted less. So working on that will go a long way in improving the situation. The other thing that makes me happy is that Kenyans every day are getting to know what their rights are. No, they are no longer sitting back and think that is some sort of benevolence that a politician will build a road or build a hospital. People are now asking tough questions on what the money is doing. And now people are questioning, when you allocate 2 billion or 400 million to fixing the same public office every year. People are asking those questions when you allocate money to doing things that don't bring changes to people's lives.
Yep.
And it's a good thing. And we have to appreciate that we have that space that people are able to ask those questions. The fact that the government right now, after last year's occurrences, are able to listen more and tell people that no, we are willing to listen to you on some of these issues. I think it goes a long way. The only thing that I'd like to ask the citizens, that beyond expressing that power, then don't just question, then keep quiet. Question and do something about it. But more important, that read and understand it, because sometimes I also think that people don't read a lot. People don't check some of these things, and then they are also carried away with rumors. Yeah, majority of Kenyans right now can read and write, and we should be able to participate fully. Because what I also find very disturbing, that lately Kenyans have become very, they have resigned to fate when it comes to matters of public participation. Because some of these budget policy statements are out there. People are invited to come to social halls to give their opinions around them, but they are not able to. And finally, that finish, the leadership of this country must know that they're now dealing with a different set of citizenry. People who know what is supposed to be done, and with social media they're able to bounce these ideas. So this idea that leaders think that they're somewhere, then they want to talk down on people, telling them that no, we are going to have, like for example, the housing levy. You're going to have a housing levy. Then today they are building houses, tomorrow it's building a police station or a bridge. Such things. Kenyans don't mind giving out to support the government activities, but don't keep on giving these convoluted stories. Today it is this, tomorrow is that. It is forever changing faster than a chameleon's colors. Yeah, tell us clearly that this is what we are going to, and we push it to the end. When you have achieved enough money to build those houses, then give us back our money, because as workers we are really struggling with our shrinking pay slips. The unions have been so nice this government that we have not even asked for pay increase because we know where this country was coming from. But if I'm not going to ask you for more salaries, then please don't touch the little I'm receiving. Because right now, more and more, if you look at the housing levy deductions, then look at the share deductions, then you add to these other forms of taxations, people are left with so little that you're not able to get by. You're not even able to invest on anything. You can't even able to expand the economy in your own little way because they're taking so much from you. Then, if you took 2.5% of my salary for healthcare, then I should not have to buy drugs again or have to pay again for healthcare. But this idea that you're taking almost like for doctors beyond the 7,000 per month on share, you've also lost 6,000 on medical allowance. So that's 13,000 shillings every month you're giving to this government for healthcare. Yet when you fall sick, you still be told this drug is not there. So they must be able to, once we surrender our monies to them, they have to then in return show us value for it. If we are giving you money for education, it is wrong that I still have to look for an academy for my child because the public health system is crumbling. If I've given you money for boreholes and dams and all that, I should not be still buying water in bottles and dispensers. Get that? You must then do your part. If you're going to give so much to transport ministry, I should be taking loans to buy cars. There should be public transport in this country. This idea that citizens must resort to private intervention because public interventions are not working. Why do you have to hire private guards and all these private companies when you are paying for the budget for the security in their billions of shillings? That's what we talked about. You end up spending more in doing something that your taxes should have been doing for you. We don't mind giving 50% to government, but once I give the 50%, then the other 50% should be strictly
for you,
for me and my family on food and maybe a holiday here and there in Mombasa.
Why don't we see the requisite action in terms of because essentially when we look into budget, we look at the finance bill, which essentially becomes the finance act, is that we know where there will be movement, very plainly put, where there will be increased or standardized taxation, which is essentially taking money from people to run certain government activities. But if we don't see those activities, if we did an audit of the budget from 2024-2025, what we were told, because all of this is in public record, what we were told was going to be what that money was going to be used for. The Auditor General has already told us in an interim report that we don't see full absorption of funds for what they were supposed to be used for from budget 2024 to 2025, and we are in another budget cycle today. So those issues where we see the proliferation of private sector engagement should not be the case when there is taxation that is meant to fuel public sector activities. But that is exactly what we are seeing happening. So why should you have to pay more for certain things to be done when you've already given your hard-earned money to ensure that it's done at the public sector? We shouldn't see that. You shouldn't have to spend more for security. You shouldn't have to spend more for water. You shouldn't have to spend more for healthcare. You shouldn't have to spend extra outside for education. You shouldn't. You shouldn't, as a farmer, have to spend more for farm inputs when your taxes have gone to make sure that you can. Mind you, there's VAT on a lot of those. Like you say, it's been excise exempt on this side, but it's been VAT taxable on this other side. The money is being spent, but you cannot see the requisite action or engagement after that. And then we see the proliferation of private sector activity. Why?
Good question. And the question is, why do we have missing outrage? You would expect people then to be outraged when things that are promised don't happen. And I think Dr. has put it well. One has been a question of information. So if you don't know what you deserved to get, then you can't be outraged because you don't know what you lost. I think the second issue has been an issue of courage to call out things. So as I mentioned, for instance, we are seeing people even in the private sector, banks, calling out the issue, first internally, and then, it's not unique to any one institution. It's a cultural issue. So when you have people beginning to own the problem and call it out, I think we'll be moving in the right direction. I think also because of many years of, treating the government, the way Dr. was saying, as Bwana Mkubwa, you don't question, you just do what you are told. I think people then have lost their sense of agency. So you'll, for instance, hear people complaining about government issued fertilizers being sold in a local shop. And when you think about it, who are you complaining to? Because you really don't expect the Minister of Agriculture to know that fertilizer is being sold sold in your local shop. If you never report that anywhere, then nothing will get done. And then you get to that level of sort of everybody has given up, there's complacency, and we just accept it. So the whole issue of social accountability, people knowing that at that social level, at the point at which I am supposed to be consuming or receiving these service or good, that is actually where the accountability should happen. And government has made the right steps, at least from a policy level, in terms of, for instance, availing public information. For instance, we have a database or a site where all public procurement or tenders are supposed to be published. If you go there, you will find some have been published, not all have been published. But if you are to push for all of them to be published, then you start to get the kind of data that you require. Now, once you have that data and you have a sense of agency, so you own the problem and you want to do something about it, then we move to the question of what can you do about it. So there are things like reporting, for instance. The Witness Protection Act has been enhanced. So again, ideally, well implemented, it should be easier and safer for people to whistleblow and report on these things. We have social media, we have, media. So a lot of this information, then once people have it, they should then communicate it. And then we would expect, for instance, that the various government agencies, EACC, DCI, will then take action. And again, we've also seen enhancement of the laws that should allow them to do that in terms of the Criminal Procedures Act and the likes, or suggestions made by EACC on, for instance, strengthening the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. So we have the infrastructure. I feel we now have the data, and it's a good thing that data is being used. So, for instance, now farmers have been registered by government. Government is using e-vouchers to issue out fertilizers, for instance, subsidized fertilizers. So we should have the data ideally to then now go and review and assess how much of it actually got to people. Are these people that we know, and especially at the local level? So I think we have everything that we need. Probably now it's a shift in mindset. So as opposed to waiting to Serikali's idea, we to this idea, but we also then hold Serikali accountable.
John, speaking of data, do you, through your forensic lens, do you think in the budget making process there's an adoption of forensic audit recommendations from past budgets, or are these just shelved? Do we sit down, start making a budget, but in reference to last year? Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at that data. Do we even do that?
So historically, we haven't, because as I said, it has been incremental. So we gave health 100 billion. Now let's give them 110. But in a zero-based budget, you should ideally then go and ask yourself, how much did we allocate last? No, actually, that shouldn't even be the main issue. It should be what needs to be done and how much does it cost, and then what funds are available. And then allocate those funds, in line with the need. But then also go back and check whether it's a forensic audit or the normal audits that the Auditor General does every year. Ask, for instance, even a question of capacity to absorb. Because in as much as we are saying there is not enough money, you also then get situations where government agencies or departments are unable to use what has been allocated.
Sure.
So, what would be the point of then allocating more if you can't even use what had been allocated previously? So that hasn't traditionally happened, but then ideally now should happen with a zero-based budgeting, and also even in terms of the reporting, we are moving from a cash-based accounting where you account for the cash you used to an accrual accounting where you account for what you committed to. So, for instance, if you launch a road that will cost $1 billion, but only spend or report 100 million, the reality is that you've committed government to $1 billion. So, if you're just reporting on the 100 that you used, people will then not know that you've actually committed $1 billion, and that's then how you end up with pending bills in the hundreds of billions. So there's a lot of data. There's scope to use that data better. I think we're in the right direction, but we need to do more, and we need to hold those people responsible, accountable in terms of what they come up with.
And I think that was a question that we started off with, and we've come full circle here, that to say that, do we actually see that there is a direct use of information and data that has been collected that will fuel decisions that you will make with money later? We have too many examples, kind of like what Dr. Miskele was talking about earlier, is that we know, for example, that the reforms towards healthcare have been trying to go into a preventative manner. Sure enough, just a couple of weeks ago, we've seen that a number of machines have been brought that will go towards preventative healthcare. But overall, do we see that budget making, for example, in the year 2025-2026 is going to go towards making sure that preventative health